My name is Orbital. With me is Arena Minioncaster and, of course, OPTSM fan. How you two doing today?
Doing good. Kind of odd to be here with you, Orbital, and not casting the game, but Justin here, and I'm super happy because I'm here with OPTSM fan, a big fan of his actually, and we finally get to meet.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Really excited. Privileged to be on the desk, and really looking forward to some really good games tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time as, of course, we are into the first week of the postseason. This is straight up the quarterfinals. You know, we have the top two out of every single division coming in and playing their hearts out. And, of course, today we do have the #1 seed coming out of Ocean Division, the Striking Vipers, who set an amazing 6-0, I believe, the second team to go 6-0 in the regular season aside from wildcard, coming up against Converse University Purple, which I think will be a great series in and of itself, especially with those patch changes coming in.
Yeah, a bit of a change up here. The timing of it a little bit rough that it comes in, when they have to play on that. And interesting to me as well was that yesterday we got to see the other Striking Vipers team play against Maryville, and the Maestros unfortunately didn't fare quite as well. Today, Striking Vipers champions the other roster. They are hoping to be able to win this so that Striking Vipers don't just get knocked out right away in the quarters here.
Yeah, and
it'll be really interesting to see, like you were talking about, with just the new patch, like what new champions we may see. Does the Diana priority go down? Do we see new stuff like Jarvan, which has like a wicked fast, full clear for a champion that shouldn't? So it'll be really interesting to see. It's kind of fun just to see these new teams kind of see what their read on the meta is right away.
Yeah, and there's plenty to talk about. Let's dive into that a little bit more. I think Sona was one of the large ticket champions that we were kind of wondering about because of the win rate. I think it's skyrocketed in Diamond Division and above specifically. So, I mean, do either of you want to kind of dive into that and kind of the changes that we might see and that might have pushed her over the edge for some of these players?
Yeah, so, I mean, the change to Sona is basically that her passive now, instead of refunding mana off the auras, she gets to stack ability haste on her abilities really, really quickly. And the most important thing is after a certain point, it starts reducing the ultimate ability haste, the ultimate cooldown here. And Sona has always been a champion that's very strong because of the crescendo. It's like a scaled down Seraphine Encore there. So in lanes where Sona gets to continuously proc her spells, stack those the Accelerando, I believe it's called, stacks, the cooldown reduction basically. If she can stack that very quickly, she looks incredibly broken and she scales just amazingly well. But her weaknesses haven't changed. She's still very vulnerable in lane to hard engage, and if you can catch her, you can burst her, she'll never reach that point in the game.
Yeah, and as much as we're talking about Sona, I highly doubt we will see her for the exact reason that you mentioned right there at the end. She's still got a lot of weaknesses. There's still a better champion named Seraphine that does,
Yes.
very much better all the different things. But you look at stuff like Sivir, it was kind of showing up. Vladimir got a buff that I felt was unneeded, but then Jin Maokai might be some stuff. But the power picks that we have been seeing before, the Lee Sin, Diana, the Tom Kench, the Xin Zhao, and Ziggs. Those are the big ones that kind of got hit in this previous patch, and I know that there's been a lot of priority on a lot of those, or like B1 or R1, R2 picks for most teams, but I'd like to see how that makes its change. Like, does Thresh become something that most people look at? Do you want to pick like your Ashe or your Varus in the first rotation to try to like save these picks? Since jungle has kind of like the elevation of S plus to like S now is a whole lot more ambiguous.
Yeah, and since it seems like you have that tier list set in front of you, I also want to talk about the one I don't think we touched on, which is that Karma OPTSM fan. There were a slew of changes, I think, over to that kit, and it changed a lot. She used to be, that SA tier area, and used to be also, like you said, one of those priority pick or ban champions. I think might have fallen a little bit, but I mean, in your opinion, where does she land in that tier list now?
I think like her kit basically still stays the same. You're also refunded for just hitting your mantra Q now more. And I think that they're also like just looking to keep her in support more so than solo lane. But there is an opportunity, depending on the play styles of these ones, that they just say, what, screw it. This don't matter that much to me. We're going to throw Karma in the mid or bot lane, and we just, try to pseudo hyper carry one of these junglers that may have gotten like slight nerfs or something like that. So.
Yeah, I think, as Sean kind of mentioned there, it doesn't hurt support Karma that much. It's more solo lanes, right? So top Karma, mid lane Karma not being able to reduce the cooldown of the mantra quite as much. And it really only affects one of these teams, and that's Converse University here, because their mid laner, Pantheret, does play Karma, has played it 3 times this season already here, whereas Striking Vipers, they don't play Karma in any of their roles. So to them, they're going to be more than happy. They don't really particularly care about that change. I think one of the champions we haven't really touched on, Tom Kench, I think that one will affect both of these teams. They all play Tom Kench here, especially in the top lane. And he is a little bit weaker in laning here. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him picked up tonight if, he kind of falls down in priority, maybe not even the first phase of picks.
Yeah, and with so much on the line and so many different champions that they do kind of have to worry about, some of them more so than others, of course, we'll have to wait and see and figure out how it's going to be played out. Of course, maybe we see that Sona just for craps and giggles. We never know. We don't know what these guys have in store for themselves. So I want to get a quick idea real quick if we can. I know you said you might not have a whole lot, but I want to get a quick prediction for this series. I'm going to put you guys on the spot. I know some people don't like this. RMC, first, your predictions. Who do you think is going to come out with Game 1 or the series in general?
Oh, really? I hate having the first predictions, but you know what? I will go with, I think, Striking Vipers right now, just based on what I know of these teams. Striking Vipers, they're a veteran team. They've played in UPL 3 seasons, I believe now, if not more so far. And while they have struggled in previous seasons, like you said, they're 6-0, man. They're a really, really solid team. And for Converse, I do think it won't be a swift 2-0. I think Converse has some fight in them. They are a varsity team, but they've really, really well. So I'll say 2-1 Striking Vipers.
All right, an OPTSM fan, what you got?
I'm gonna say 2-1 as well. I'm going with Converse though, actually. So that's gonna be my call. I think that because it's a best of 3, there is the likelihood that one of these games comes down to like one really big win team fight, maybe. That they win when they're at a draft disadvantage, whoever it might be. But I'm gonna pull for them. Also, I want to see what the new look for Converse is now that they have a melee mid laner coming in right now. So I think that'll be a really good matchup right there.
All right, well, there you go. Some predictions from the desk. And of course, we want the predictions and the analysis from our casters themselves. So we'll go ahead, toss it over to Mad Magical and Rebel Fox to take us into the champion select.
Hello, welcome one and all. Oh, looks like my camera's a little bit off at the moment. Sorry, well, hopefully they'll fix itself. But I'm here with the one and only Rebel Fox. I'm Mad Magical, and I'm excited. We get a kick off, well, technically, second day of the quarterfinals. There's some action yesterday. We have more today, and it's going to be the #1 seed of the Ocean Division in the Striking Vipers champions, taking on the #2 seed in the Infernal Division of Converse University Purple. Dean, what do you got for me?
First off, Striking Vipers, they started off a couple of splits ago here inside of the UPL, did not have the best runs. They had like 0-6 performances in their first couple of splits. Now they're running multiple teams within playoffs. Yes, I think the Maestros unfortunately went out just yesterday to Maryville, but that's one of the top teams that we have inside of Proving Grounds, inside of Collegiate, things like that. Their sister team, Striking Vipers, went 6-0 inside of their group. They've been an amazing performer here inside of the split. So Converse has kind of the hill to climb here, at least so to speak, against the side of the Vipers, who went undefeated this split. But still, they had a phenomenal turnaround as well. This should be an exciting little match we've got between us here in the quarterfinals.
I agree. And, we're looking at how things kind of unfolded. As you said, Maryville was able to get a 2-0 over the Striking Vipers sister team in the Maestros just yesterday. Today, the champions, they are a team that have been undefeated when it comes to their series of victories throughout this season so far. They've been looking pretty good, while on the other side for Converse, things have kind of been up and down, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, on the side of Converse, obviously, like their group was a little bit tumultuous and everything that had happened. They had like Vexo, who was able to beat them at one point and then do something else. But this is also a team that took a game, or a series, my apologies, off of Dare Black, which is something else to talk about. It was like Converse, they lost to the team that's directly below them, but they also were able to take a series off of the best team out of the group, which was pretty impressive to think about as well. With some of the swaps that have come through for the team, they were definitely looking a lot better. One of the big ones, of course, was the likes of Melee mid laner, who had taken over the position. I don't know if he's in today, because it looks like right now we have all Arrow in the top lane, which is a little bit curious to me, because they were performing very well with Melee mid laner. But let's hope this roster swap helps out for them.
Might be maybe a scheduling conflict as well. You never know when it comes to some of these teams. But at the moment, we're getting into the draft. We see Vars and Thresh taken away pretty quickly by the champions. On the other side, Converse, they've gotten rid of Krakenon's Diana, something that he's been playing a lot of as
Oh,
well. The Lucian, the next one. I'm waiting for that Xin Zhao ban. We look across the regions, and as of late, a lot of teams have kind of been letting that go through. It doesn't mean it's not first pick immediately because of it.
Oh, absolutely. It's still obscenely strong. I think Lee Sin's in that boat as well, especially with Potato Balls on the Rift. He's one of the better Lee Sins that we've got inside of everything that has occurred everywhere. I also like that the homework was done from the side of Striking Vipers. They see that the bot lane area, you're playing a lot of things like Thresh, like the Bard, even into other enchanters and things like that that fit into that mold alongside utility. There's a composition that gets run with like the likes of the Lee Sin. We talked about this, the Kennen, things like that. They're picking away at the bot lane here, which is supposed to be something very good here from the side of Convex University.
But still, we see that with that Aphelios being the final ban, of course, it's going to be Viego. It's Xin Zhao. And I'd imagine Viego would be on the other side to take that away. It's the trade of junglers. We've been seeing these two pretty much dominating for quite some time now.
That it is. Also, this is, I believe, the freshly nerfed Lulu. It wasn't terrible, the nerfs that had come out, because I think it's 1 second on the Whimsy, and it's a couple of seconds, or it's like, I think 10 seconds, 5 seconds initially off of the ultimate cooldown from the Lulu ult. So there's that to consider. You're giving up a bunch of power, but now you're putting a bunch into the side of your jungler here to work with, as like you were saying, like you can see the power that's inside of the Striking Vipers composition with the Aurelia and the Ziggs getting added in as well.
Yeah, Aurelia is also something that I just love to see. This is one of those champions that, with that mini rework, you can argue that made her a little bit easier to pilot, but it also gave her so much inherent strength up front that she's able to now provide.
She's incredible to see in these solo lane type situations. I also know that it's a perfect takeaway from the likes of melee mid laner. And as it turns out, again, you talk about the utility bot lane that they used to run with an enchanter type. They've got the Lulu potentially to throw towards rocks. They go back to the Ashe. When it's not there, it's the Ashe that comes through from the likes of Scary Jerry, trying to put some pressure onto that bottom lane. Open up for a little bit of roaming potentially for rocks as well. The Ashe has popped up very recently. It's a response to Ziggs. I don't think it's a perfect response to Ziggs, but at minimum, it's something that helps them have a little bit more kind of a global presence with the ease, the ultimates to match what it is that Ziggs can do with this like constant pushing pressure.
What I like about it personally is that you already see that you have potato balls onto Viego, and you know that's going to be a good carry. That's someone that you get 2 items in under his belt. He's going to be able to take over these games. So why not give him a little bit more assistance? You have Lulu to buff him up if necessary, but then you also have that pick potential out of Ashe. And Scary Jerry, Rocks, they like to take a lot of control in the bot lane. Even if it's not an inherent counter to Ziggs, it is something that does bully around pretty early, throw out volley after volley to constantly shove in these waves.
I will throw out now also, so the side of Converse is banning out supports as to be expected, but I think that they should hold on to whatever it is that they're going to put into the bot lane here, only because they can hold on to whether Lulu is going to go there or they're going to have the other. It might give potential for a counter pick in the mid lane or the top lane. It's going to give up enough information where Aurelia should be relatively protected inside of the reins of the draft. Because otherwise you're giving away other information. So I expect here that they shouldn't give up and give like whatever support that they're going to be playing, because it allows for counter pick to come through from Blossoms. And bot lane is our expectation here from Converse. If Striking Vipers are able to get a better matchup for the Ziggs on bottom side, I feel like that's not going to go well for the game plan here.
And that is actually going to be a lane Viego instead of seeing it in the jungle. Very few teams have actually been retaining that. You look at Immortals, where Revenge, just recently in their victory over Dignitas in the playoffs, they actually had that top lane to be able to get a little bit of control, even though he does struggle a bit in the early stage of the lane phase now that he doesn't have as much inherent healing.
You also think now, okay, is Lulu likely going into the mid lane? Because if you've got Viego on the top side and you've got Lulu in the mid lane, you have something you're willing to take Aurelia into, because Lulu is not the most like dominant when it comes to trying to contest specifically against Aurelia. Yes, you don't have Aurelia to begin with, and you should have priority the same way. You can help out whatever jungler, in this case the Olaf, that's going to be inside of the laning phase, but eventually that lane doesn't look super good for the Lulu. It's not helpful to have that about. So I'm curious what their lane setup is going to look like now that you've given away that, like, okay, your jungler isn't going to be the Viego, and instead they didn't go for something like a solo laner, unless they're really pulling the tarp over our eyes and they're going, okay, this is Olaf top lane, that's melee mid laner who's just saying I'm going to smash whatever it is on the cross for me.
Hey, I mean, I'm coming in from UGP over on the Proving Grounds, and I saw a Trundle top lane that nearly was able to get a backdoor victory, just one auto attack away from being able to win. You never know when it comes to teams, yeah, I know, right? It was actually 66 health. It was 66 health on the Nexus. But here it is. That is going to be a mid lane Viego. Melee mid, sticking to the name, and it's going to be Kennen top lane.
So melee mid laner has actually been sticking in the mid lane for the most part, and it's been Pantheret who's been taking the Kennen and putting it into the top lane. That's my expectation, is they're doing a bit of swappery here between the two because of the pools that they've got shared between them. It is really good team fight setup in that regard, because now you've got Kennen with like a Lulu ultimate, you've got Reset City with Viego, a lot of slows, a lot of CC from the Ashe, and then you can play all of this together as one clump, go for like a Death Ball composition around the Olaf and the Kennen who get to push in. So that's what the attempt is here from the side of Converse. The other side, they have a lot of counter engage. Like LeBlanc's got good pick, but like Aurelia and Xin Zhao can throw a bunch of disruption. Rel is really good at disrupting, and they can keep Ziggs alive for a very long time in a fight if no one's able to get back onto the backline to him. So there is that fear to come out from Converse. Last Dance DF has quite a bit of agency inside of this series, both in team fights and then the lane as well. Something to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, and I liked seeing a lot of this flexibility from teams. The Viego made it, and now I was talking about it top lane just because that's where we've kind of seen that if it's going to ever be flexed out of the jungle, has been into the top lane. Going into mid lane, especially into something like LeBlanc, does have a little bit of a worrying trend for me when it comes to how you're going to be able to go for these trades into LeBlanc. Since LeBlanc should be able to get a fairly good amount of damage on to melee mid early on, push him back, and what does LeBlanc like to do best? Move around the map.
Helps take control of things, especially with Olaf, who typically likes to keep the health bar low, so you can go for something aggressive when you need to go for clear path speed, things like that. When you've got a Xin Zhao and you've got a back pocket of that LeBlanc to move around, if you don't keep your health bar very protected for the side of whether it's melee mid laner or Pantheret who decides to take that one into the mid lane, it could be problematic trying to help out this Olaf, who has quite a bit of early game agency, especially when you have a stun on Viego, you have stuns that come through from Kennen, you have CC in the bottom lane for days. There's plenty of places to attack if you are the likes of Potato Balls, who has been a fair amount of early engine here from the side of Converse. The other side, it's like, okay, Krakadon does the exact same thing, can enable the remainder of his map. This might be a series where instead they're like, okay, Krakadon, you get to do as you please, go attack Potato Balls as much as possible, prevent him from accomplishing any of the goals that they have set forth.
And so here, I kind of am just going to give a pretty generic question for you when we look at these teams and what their true win conditions are. Because for me, at least just like for me, I look at Converse, I feel like they have a pretty easy to execute front-to-back team fight composition. You throw Kennen in, you throw Viego in, Olaf doing his own thing, and you can have the catch potential of an Ashe. But on the other side, what does Striking Vipers do here to really be able to take over this game outside of just having the LeBlanc get that control as you were mentioning?
Yeah, so you can play Teamfight Out. If you're playing Teamfight Out, I think it's difficult to force super hard unless you get a very good rel engage to come in, and especially with Whimsy to come through from the likes of the Lulu. You have the ultimate as well there. You've got Ashe Arrow to disrupt. You've got Kennen who can get behind. It's kind of difficult to follow that even with a proper ultimate, so you're playing counter engage. So it's like, okay, if you move in with the Death Ball from Converse, then Striking Vipers can counteract and try to push out members of things like that. But I don't think that's optimal. I think here what you want to do is you actually want to play side lane as much as possible, because you got Ziggs to tear down towers. You got LeBlanc, who's like, who is going to catch this LeBlanc? Kennen's never going to be able to side lane against LeBlanc in the later stages, or at least has no pressure against LeBlanc in the later phases. Viego's similar in that regard. Aurelia gets to that place too. Once Wit's End is done, there's almost no chance that there's a possibility for the likes of the Kennen at least to really be able to match in a side wave. So all they really have to do is just keep pushing waves out, work on that timer. If they get early dragons, early objectives, and they win kind of the inner or the outer ring of towers to begin with, it's gonna be super simple for them to just be like, okay, Ziggs clear mid wave, clear top wave, somebody's in bot lane pushing 100% of the time, then just continue to rotate to objectives, take those away from the side of Converse.
It's always funny when you have that, when you have an Aurelia, you have a LeBlanc, and you say, you know, play almost uninteractive gameplay, just kind of like do things to move around the map, keep them always guessing where you are, but you don't really actually have to look for too much generally. You can, obviously, if someone's out of position, you're like, hey, low health Olaf, I can blow him up pretty quickly. There's a Kennen, he doesn't have ult, he doesn't even have an hourglass, boom, can kill him really quick. But outside of that, it's just like playing it passively, just going for these objectives, going for the control of the map. That's going to put a lot for Converse on the other side to have to play so proactively early onto the game, despite having something like a Viego that wants to get a few items under his belt.
I like 90% of what Converse is looking for here, because I think it does make a fair amount of sense. You've got good pushing, a lot of pressure with like the Lulu in the bottom lane. You have so much poke between like the volley and then like the glitter lance and all the abilities that'll come through from Lulu to begin with to aggress. So you should be able to move into river with bot lane, and our expectation is a lot of pressure towards bot lane. Scary Jerry can absorb with potato balls. Porting rocks is helpful in that situation too. I think it is still difficult to force. You had talked about like Ash Arrow being a really good tool for picking people off. I don't see this as much as a pick comp. I see that tool being used to try to initiate a fight around something crazy, like if you're like, you know, toying around in the river or something around an objective, and somebody gets a little bit, you know, big for their britches, you can Ash ult them, all of a sudden a fight might break out and you can start to take that. But I wanted to see something a little bit more forcing, because it's not like Kennen with a good ultimate or like with very fast movement speed can move into a team, and like Ash ult can, yes, pick somebody, yes, you got like Viego W, but you have no really forcing move. Also, this whole thing has culminated in me wanting to say, I wish they had picked Jarvan instead of Olaf, because Jarvan would have made so much sense with this composition, and also recently got buffed for everybody who's out there, so like I had double reasoning. I'm biased,
Jarvan, right? AP
Jarvan,
AP,
yeah, Moonstone
yeah,
Jarvan, yeah.
No, Moonstone.
Moonstone.
Get that out of here. No, we are Imperial Mandate players here.
They don't play Imperial. No, they just buffed his AD ratios. You have to play AD now. It's got to be.
You got a point.
Yeah,
you got a point. But that actually would be pretty good here. I actually kind of do like that. Like you said, it's being able to actually contain people a little bit easier, and also have a lot easier of a time forcing engages outside of just the Ash Arrow. I mentioned the pick before just because that was what they had initially. But like you said, after that, there's not really much else. So they have to use that more for how they want to be able to play around objective control outside of actually truly trying to see if they can just pick off one member really quick.
That's my fear for Converse, at least, because again, when you have this big team fighting composition, I'm excited to see what they can do with it, but it is harder to execute with an Olaf than something like the Jarvan. If you have Jarvan, yes, you can play early game, but you can play for team fight really easily. Like you said, with Olaf, it feels like they have to do a bunch more in the earlier phases to set themselves up so they can team fight later. And Striking Vipers, they're in a place where it's like, okay, what do their lanes look like? Bottom lane, again, I haven't seen too much of Ashe into Ziggs, but I can't expect it to be anything less than like Ziggs has to trade slightly more of his health just to make sure that he gets the wave clear even after the nerfs and things. It feels perfectly fine for Ziggs to sit in most of these lanes, unless the Lulu really hits hard against the Rel in the laning phase and they're just like pushed back constantly. I don't expect that to be a lot different than the majority of Ziggs matchups. And then you have like a LeBlanc, like you had said, into a Viego. It should look perfectly fine. The Aurelia matchup, again, once Wit's End is completed, feels fine into Kennen as well. So you've got this like very early timer, like pre-level 8, pre-level 9, pre-15 minutes, something like that, where once those first items come through, all of a sudden Striking Viper's lanes look good, their sign laning looks good, their team fighting looks okay, their skirmishing is insane with his Xin Zhao, and that's the point where Converse has to look at themselves and go, what did we get in the earlier phases? Did we get a gold advantage? Did we get dragons? What can we play at? What objective did we set ourselves for the later stages of the game? That's going to be set by what they're able to accomplish early with potato balls on the likes of this Olaf.
So before we load up into our game, start off this second match of the quarterfinals, I gotta ask, Imperial Mandate Ashe?
Imperial, not this game.
Why not?
Actually, you're okay. So like, if Viego gets going really early, I actually don't think it's terrible. It's not like obscene, especially with like when you're playing a lot of like the soft CC like counteracting of like what would happen if like Xin Zhao and Aurelia and Rel were just forcing 100% of the time. I don't think it's obscene. I don't expect it though. I do apologize for that. That's an ARAM thing, which is ridiculous, and I hate that build also. It is the most painful thing in the world to have to deal with Imperial Mandate Ashe, but I don't expect it in this one, even though I think it would not be unbuildable. I think it is perfectly acceptable this game.
I like it, Dean, and you know what else I like? I like watching League of Legends as we've loaded up onto the Rift for game number 1 of our quarterfinal Striking Vipers champions, Converse University Purple. Both teams have loaded up onto the Rift, and look at this. Converse are all grouped up together, and they are looking for something spicy, but it should be spotted out. Yep, Last Dance. Not going to be dancing with them today.
I have the largest amount of respect right now for Last Dance DF. There's a lot of players who either A, they would walk into River right there, or they wouldn't walk into River and they wouldn't see that invade coming until a little bit later and potentially run the risk of going down, or they would drop a ward and it's like, okay, I don't mind the early ward, but it also means you lose that protection if your wave is going a little bit crazy. And since Olaf has to get going early, you have to expect ganks to come through. So if you waste that ward on that Tribush, yes, you catch them out on the invade, but it means that eventually that information is not going to do as much for you, and like you would have had better advantage later. I'm watching them also continue to go for like this early invade. They know they have to make things happen. A level 1 will be damaging to this team because these lanes can get ruined very quickly if like flashes or summoners are burned. And that's exactly what is happening right here, is they're just like toying around with these options.
Glitter Lance volley gets a lot of damage on GMT, but he'll be fine. The only problem right now is that Blossom has to use Ferromancy to get some distance. That's a lot of health taken off of the members of the Striking Vipers, and it will be Potato Balls taking red.
That it is. Now, with the ward over the wall, I actually don't mind this if the Ziggs is just going to try to put some harassment into them, but he's not throwing bombs over the wall. I honestly would have liked to see, okay, all right, he's saving it to try to steal it away from Potato Balls, and I don't love that right there. If Last Dance DF just throws like 2 bombs into Scary Jerry and Rocks, I think this situation is not unsalvageable from the side of Striking Vipers, but because he decided to go for the steal, it just ends up being the stolen away camp. Olaf should be able to clear a fair amount of this jungle away without any response to come through, unless Krakenon wants to start going for vertical jungling, which then allows you to attack Ziggs on bottom side with the double ranged bot lane, which is really beneficial for the side of Converse.
As right now, Scary Jerry Rocks forcing back Last Dance and Blossoms away from this minion wave. One thing I was going to say that maybe for Blossoms is if this Rel is able to get level 2 over Lulu, maybe that's when you could try to force a fight. It's, you know, pretty immobile on the other side, but here, there's no way. Once you lost out on that trade, you were forced to recall early on. There's just not much you could do.
Very interesting. They actually see Anime Girl. They didn't see Kraken until right then and right there. Nice little invade to come through because Kennen was a part of that bottom lane play, which meant that he got to lane a little bit later than what had happened. That meant that Anime Girl responds very much in kind by making sure to go for a 2-wave, 3-wave stack. I think it was a 2-wave stack that had gone through from the Aurelia to make sure that she could move faster than the Kennen did, with Panther not being able to respond on the Kennen because he was on the bottom side and then had to walk up the top side, didn't get the ability to work on the wave fast enough. Helps out the counter, gets that red buff. Yes, Krakenon's still down the 1 camp, so I think Raptors were taken by Potato Balls, but still, very, very well played right there. Good communication between the top and the jungle.
Yeah, as a little bit of trading back and forth coming in from our mid laners. ZMT crashing the minion wave, unfortunately not able to get the freeze away from melee mid, who's at least holding it for the moment, trying to make it a little bit more difficult for ZMT to actually get full control of the mid lane. But when you're able to even get this close, it allows a lot of time where if you want to, you can soon leave. But ZMT distortion forward has to be careful because look who's here. Potato Balls on the other side looking for the mirror image. ZMT was able to bait it a little bit, flashed away. Flash coming in with the the blade not enough. The flash of the undertow is for first blood.
What a play right there. Able to group up. They know they have to strike very quickly inside the confines of this game. Yes, they burned 2 flashes for it, but still, nonetheless, well played. And around the Viego, nonetheless, which is a pretty solid way to begin your laning phase if you're trying to play into melee mid laner. We talked about how this matchup could go poorly if it gets a little bit too bad for the likes of the LeBlanc being able to abuse the Viego. So, well played to begin with.
Yeah, and I like that from the side of Converse, getting a little bit of an edge, trying to control LeBlanc, control the controller, as you'd say, just to make sure that ZMT isn't going to be able to move around as efficiently or as early. But unfortunately, right here, with this invade, this could give up a lot because there was already the rotate coming in from the bot lane so that ZMT can pick up a kill, return on to Potato Balls, and guess what? LeBlanc now has blue.
That's insane. Okay, so they do get the response kill, but also they bailed on that play pretty quickly. I thought they could have kept chasing Rocks. Once that Glitter Lance came out and it missed Krakenon, I was like, there's no way he doesn't just keep chasing. But instead, they just bail on it. They say, we don't have to worry about it. You're going to get a reset for their Xin Zhao. And the response play, like you said, the blue buff, helpful to try to get ZMT back into this one now that he has that ability to spam everything that he needs to make sure he's got the lane priority to work with. Bottom lane was shoved in. This was a little crazy. Now, if Krakenon had walked right back out, I think they would have been fine to try to contest this, but unfortunately, because he went up to top side to try to cover for what looks like a TP to come through from the likes of the Aurelia, it just means that it's relatively free. That big stacked wave that they had on bottom side does give away first dragon here for the likes of Converse to snag that one up.
I'd even argue that we could go back to where they didn't chase down on Rocks for that kill. That could have actually led to them getting more control over the dragon and delayed or even just made it so they could get the dragon themselves. As they lost out that. You can see top lane. That Krakenon is going to invade a bit on Potato Balls. Get just some chickens on the way out, but there's no Rift Herald to play around. The Scuttle Crab is going to spawn here in about 30 seconds, so you can play around that, but that's not really a big win back after losing a dragon.
Very nice. I am liking the way that right now Striking Vipers are trying to play around Xin Zhao because, again, ZMT just has this constant shove in the mid wave up against the likes of melee mid laner, especially with his blue buff, being able to spam abilities as much as he wants. And that opens up Xin Zhao to go for, like, counter jungling. So you did see at least a camp pilfered off trying to get something back against the likes of the Olaf, who's got the super class fast clear speed. We haven't had irreparable damage done here to the side of Striking Vipers or much damage really done at all. Yes, they got the first dragon of the game. But eventually, again, their composition is relatively difficult to just like pure team fight with in the right situation. W came out a little late there against the Ziggs, because I think he was trying to push him over the minefield. I was trying to figure out what had happened in that situation. But still, again, if Striking Vipers is able to keep this pace up, I think they're perfectly fine going into the later stages, even giving up second, even in the third Dragon territory. If they can keep where they're at right now, eventually will just be it'll be a foothold and a half that they've got inside of the game. Converse still are the ones that need to start pushing pace.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what you were talking about before when we were looking at the win conditions for both teams. Striking Vipers, they could just kind of sit back, relax, as long as they're not hemorrhaging out any leads to Converse. They're going to be perfectly fine.
That they are. And you're even feeling better because, like, right now you do see Anime Girl who's preparing for the top lane. I am a little upset that it's not Wits End Rush. I get the idea of wanting to make sure that you got the Vamp Scepter. I would be okay with that if you went right from Vamp Scepter into, like, the Magic Resist. But if you're going to do Blade of the Rune King, I got to see Merc Treads as fast as possible because it's going to help so much into the cannon to be able to deny not only the CC but also just the magic damage that comes through, especially with Sword Shoes rushed here from the likes of Panthera with the Electric Cube, things like that. So if I'm Anime Girl, I got to see the Merc Treads if you're going to go for the Blade of the Rune King. I know it's insanely powerful, works into pretty much every single champion, even though Wits End at this point would be my preference. Like,
oh, and this is the problem right now without having it. Look at the damage that Anime Girl took immediately, but it's going to be the Vanguards that turned around, so it's a 1-for-1 top lane.
Absolutely dances around everything as much as possible. Potato Ball is kind of poking his nose into top wave, but not committing to it immediately into that fight. And it allows for a couple more auto attacks to be thrown by Anime Girl, who ends up securing that 1-for-1 trade, even though the bank comes through. And even better, the kill goes on to Potato Balls. That's good for Potato Balls on these Olaf. Continue trying to control the map as much as possible. But Anime Girl's pulling that kill and being up 20 CS is really difficult for the Kennen to work with in the side lane if this gets capitalized on. And even now, through this moment, they've got this Rift Herald on lock.
Yeah, it was an awkward start from PP and Rock as well. They thought maybe, we brought Lulu up here. We've got Kennen coming by nearby. But unfortunately, mid lane is still getting shoved in pretty hard. The Viego versus LeBlanc matchup is difficult. And all this time is now gifted over to Kraken just to invade. Though that was a lot of damage that you took immediately from Panther. And try to get a little bit more with the Ignite. So Blossom takes down PB on the other side. Melee mid, looking for the flank, able to get a lot of damage, take out the mirror image, but is baited by it. ZMT, nice juke.
Get absolutely pranked, Converse. You had no clue. It's very rare that a situation like that arises where you just are not able to track the right LeBlanc and you end up going after the clone, but that was pretty much flawlessly played by ZMT. Big props to him on that one.
Oh, and Panther Red just dies again to Anime Girl. Just get dove top lane. Here's the exhaust, but Anime Girl Blade Surge forward with a little bit of damage. Might be able to get the stun back. Unfortunate timing. Melee mid was able to take him down.
Yeah, the W in the auto attack right there was the ceiling phase. That auto doesn't go through. Maybe the chance comes out for a Q and an auto reset into a second Q to maybe kill Rocks off as well. But it is Anime Girl who's willing to take these 1-for-1 trades. More CS denied as well to the likes of the Kennen, who's at 48 here at the 10-minute mark, approaching with about a 30 CS lead in favor of Anime Girl, who's also got the 2 kills. So now Blade of the Rune King's done. And again, as soon as Wits End Merc Treads are completed as well, this is going to be an insufferable lane. I love the usage of the Rift Herald with the Ziggs as well, because it's so many tower plates that are removed all at once for the side of Striking Vipers, who all of a sudden they're commanding 1,000 gold lead on a comp that, again, for Converse, they feel like they should be the ones that should be pushing this pace.
Yeah, so, I agree. I really like that Ziggs play bot lane. So few teams actually seem to play around that anymore. We see Ziggs all the time bot lane. I rarely ever see anyone be like, hey, we have Ziggs. We got Rift Herald. Let's pop into that bot lane with a full, full plated turret. We can take it. It's that quick.
Yeah, not to mention, like, the whole point of the Ashe and the Lulu bot lane is that it should be good into, like, the melee that is Blossoms. But again, Last Dance GF or DF, my apologies, the whole reason you take Ziggs is just for perma pushing. It's been working on bottom side. Now that they've taken the tower, you can start to siege up on other places in the map. This is like the Caitlyn strategy. Oh, Tyra's out.
Look at ZMT. ZMT still top lane. That's going to be the Slicing Maelstrom taking down Blossoms. Anime Girl trying to cut it back with Kraken and Last Breath on the other side. But now that ZMT has rejoined the fight with the TP, they're poking out with the bouncing bombs. A little bit of damage here and there, but just not enough at the moment. Still waiting, trying to see who's going to be able to get this dragon first. PB's on it. It's going to be stolen away by Kraken, even though they could get the stun onto ZMT. They're not going to chase it down. They can't. The satchel charge blows them away.
absolutely insane from striking Vipers. The W that came out from Krakenon is all that was necessary to snag that one away. It must have been just like fractions of the health bar of the Dragon that he was able to steal it on, but that is a high percentage play from Converse that they unfortunately just flipped right there. Yes, they got the kill. They were around the Dragon. The Ziggs was putting on so much pressure, though. It's difficult to deal with. Anime Girl looking for something in this character. He might be powerful in a 2v1. Rox is only level 5.
I think so, but you got to be careful when you have Rox, and you can just volley more if you got a lot of damage trying to kind of back. But Anime Girl gets the 1v3 turnaround yet again.
Man, I love it. He just says every single time that they issue like the trade that can come through, he's just like, I'm taking it right now. If possible, the 1-for-1, and just believing that three kills is going to be enough for something. Also goes for plated steel cap, which is insane. I would want this Aurelia to be side laning, not team fighting as much as possible, but clearly Anime Girl sees this in a completely different light as you go for the plated steel caps, trying to deny the Ashe and the Viego and the Olaf damage as much as possible instead of playing for the Kennen win condition.
I was just say that, or Anime Girl is just going to try to never really lane against Kennen, against any of the AP damage, because you only really have to worry about Pantherette. If you're in the spot lane against Scary Jerry, I guess it's going to work out even PB on the other side. You got to be careful, though. Like you said, level 6 is there. The exhaust and flash are both available. We got to wait for the arrow. Is it going to connect? Barely goes wide, but now they've shown their face. Looking for the sun, but Ragnarok is out. Looking for Rox instead, but that's so much damage with the Wild Girl 2 to take down a killing spree for PB.
Now, on one side, I'm like, okay, this is cool because they're able to snag a kill away. The other half of me is like, okay, how much time was Olaf and Lulu, Olaf and Lulu sitting down in that bot lane waiting to capitalize on that play into Anime Girl? Feels like a waste right there, where maybe you could have used that time more proactively to find something else, some better setup across the map. Yes, you get the 1 kill. You're not really shutting out the Aurelia's gold, kind of farming, though, because you're still up a fair amount. You still have the first item completed here from Anime Girls. You get a little bit more on your Olaf, who's super strong, but that's not going to eventually be enough to try to take fights and stuff. So I have to see what Converse's plan is with this Olaf, who's pulled a bunch of these early resources, only because I don't expect that that's going to be able to carry them through the later stages of the game.
I mean, I remember back in the day when Olaf was actually played as a carry, and I'm speaking way back in the day.
Even in, what was it, Season 9 when Yuumi came out, and you had, the Olaf-Yuumi combination that was just unbeatable when you were able to run it in the jungle?
Rebel,
that was insane.
That's cheating. That's
I love
cheating
that.
Because
awesome.
anybody with Yuumi was a carry at that point.
Okay,
Yuumi with a Yuumi was a carry at that point.
But this was like a 15-minute spike. At 15 minutes, you had a hyper carry when you had the Yuumi on top of it.
That's true. Yeah, you got a point.
Pretty awesome.
I'm just saying. It's one of those things that almost feels like cheating at that point.
I miss those days. They were good days.
Yeah, well, right now, seems that the teams are kind of just stalled out at the moment, even though there's 7 kills compared to 5 on Striking Vipers.
Well,
arrow, that time it connects, but nobody's really nearby, not soon enough.
Ragnarok?
Anime Girl's waiting it out. Ragnarok is up, trying to avoid the stun that's going to come through as Anime Girl gets slowed down by the Undertow, and there's going to be the last wreck, but unfortunately, you just have everyone who can follow it up, get the kill. All the other side, Scary Jerry flashed on to Blossom to get a kill right underneath the turret.
What? How in the world? Okay, I understand what happened, but what in the world happened mid lane? How is Scary Jerry 2v1ing in the mid lane against the side of Last Chance TF and Blossoms and pulling a kill? Heroics from the Ashe right there. Well played. Not even an arrow because he had used that towards the bottom side to catch out Anime Girl. As these lanes have been attacked from the side of Striking Vipers, they do trade for the top lane tower because ZMT has gone pretty much untouched in these last 10 minutes. They put everything into both of the other lanes as much as possible, not fearing the LeBlanc apparently.
No, not at all. They're just saying whatever. It doesn't really matter to us. Though I'm just boggled by this game at the moment. That this game, you got Potato Balls at 6-2 on this Olaf with 1,000 gold lead over Krakenon, a player that we were expecting to be able to take over this game pretty effectively, and then other lanes are just kind of holding their own. Even Anime Girl 3-5 on this Aurelia has actually got a pretty decent lead over Pantherette.
You're in a terrified state right now, again, if you're the side of Converse, because they're still trying to push as much as possible to get this Olaf into a good place, to get this Ashe into a good place. but they're not close enough to being able to have this like big enough lead to work with. And even worse is they're like soaking loss of objectives. So right now they've lost a dragon, which is not good. Second Rift Herald going to go over to the side of Striking Vipers, which might even open up third dragon here for the side of Striking Vipers if they decide to just like force on mid lane right here and right now with this objective, which is a possibility for them. Bleeding out objectives like this means that you need even more gold to be able to team fight with when you don't have the proper setup, like when you're taking a 5-on-5 in the eventuality that that ends up occurring. And their composition is kind of designed to be an endgame version of that. So right now, being at a gold, like even in gold, if they had controlled every objective in the game, I would have said, okay, that's fine. But because they've lost so many of them in the process of just keeping the gold even, I'm not in love with where they're at inside of this game. They still clearly have the ability to fight. To me, if Striking Vipers takes a bad fight and end up losing a 5-on-5, all of a sudden Converse just completely control this game. But Striking Vipers, if they're smart and they continue to play this very slow style, they are more than capable of just like kind of sitting here waiting and then eventually
Crack it on. You can't do it twice. You cannot do this twice.
Can.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
no.
you. I was going to say, there's
Oh,
no
yeah,
way
sure.
this happens twice in a row, but the re-engage fight afterwards might work out well with the Magnet Storm to the backline on all 5 members. Vanguard's edge too, but the Slicing Maelstrom to keep Anime Girl out of this, but they got the TP on the other side. Here's the re-engage with the Blade Surge. They're going to be able to get the knock-up, and Anime Girl is eviscerated in the fight. ZMT is able to blow up 2 to make it turn around. Maybe Rox is gone as well. They've turned the fight, cracking on his stolen soul away, and now Melee mid laner chasing down to pick up another kill. ZMT, the only one alive, gonna be able to kite it back towards the turret. Not if Melee has anything to say about it.
Not at all. ZMT should be perfectly fine. I think he can play some shenanigans to try for the 2v2, or 2v1, my apologies, but I don't think he's going to go for it. I just talked about Striking Vipers don't take a bad 5-on-5. That was almost a clean one, but again, when every ultimate's available, you have like the Lulu ultimate to throw on top, the Viego resets to come through. It is difficult to try to like pull this fight off immediately in the place that you're at right now. They came damn close to winning that. If Aurelia gets to go off on that initial tangent without the Kennen ultimate popping immediately, like if Kennen had been stunned or something or been CC'd to prevent that from coming through, that might have just been an immediate tear and an ace to come through against the side of Converse. Thankfully, they were able to use that one as a deterrent to keep Anime Girl out without getting a bunch of reset city with that Q coming through. And because of that, now Converse gets to walk away from that situation. Now one dragon up, still even in gold, even after what looked like what was a beneficial fight. The Viego, thankfully, was a primary beneficiary. Olaf is still popping off and did not give over shutdown gold. Very good things for them.
Yeah, I mean, right now, for Converse, things, even with a messy fight like that, things are looking well. As you had talked about, it was pretty much, we needed to see Striking Vipers not actually fall for the bait, not try to see if they can go for that kind of fight against Converse, who are clearly setting them up for the fight they wanted. And with Pantherette now chasing down ZMT, forcing out these distortions, getting a lot of distance and trying to get more control over the top side.
It's a place where, you know, even though you're up a ridiculous amount of gold as this LeBlanc against the likes of the Kennen, you have to be careful there. Now penetration's done. When Void Staff is over, all of a sudden ZMT is going to have the ability to play kind of off-tempo on this LeBlanc to find picks and things to be able to, like, use the distortion, use the double Q to just, like, nuke somebody, especially with how squishy that this team can be on the side of Converse, because, like, you've got Kennen who will... If I catch Kennen in a side lane against the LeBlanc and she blows him up, I'm going to be mad at Panther, because there's... Again, that's very obviously coming through, and you've got no magic resist to actually divide it from ever happening. There's no way to contest against that because LeBlanc's just way too fast for Kennen to try to deal with without, like, flashing away. So there is that to keep in your back pocket as well, is that, like, this whole game, I think, from the side of Converse, has been them just trying to control everything except for LeBlanc, which puts a bunch of pressure onto ZMT to start popping off, to start being able to use this gold that the LeBlanc has accrued from no pressure being applied. But, I mean, again, that just means that somebody will eventually get inevitably nuked through everything, even just because LeBlanc is completely fed at this point.
An awkward Rift Herald right there mid lane, too, from the side of Striking Vipers. Not even getting the charge. No dragon to play around. It's still 2 minutes out until we're going to have the next Cloud Dragon on at the Rift. And normally, you kind of look at Cloud Dragons, and whenever I see Cloud Dragons, especially if it's going to be the sole potential, I more look at the Dragons itself and what it provides. And for Converse, that is a great dragon to have if you think about it. Getting more Slicing Maelstorms, more Ragnaroks, more Wild Growth. Hell, you're going to have the goddamn Enchanted Crystal Arrow on something like a 25-second cooldown.
Oh, yeah. And in move speed too. You throw that into the mix and you're like, okay, you're a death ball composition without having something that like is a go button like what would be a Jarvan. One of the best ways to supplement that is move fast, because there's no way to counteract somebody moving quickly in your direction. When you pop Ragnarok and you've got 3 Cloud Bricks in your back pocket with a Cloud Soul, you are running at light speed into a team that cannot CC you, and you're a 7-kill Olaf. That's nearly impossible to deal with. It's going to require basically ZMT focusing down that target, preventing him from going on to things like the Ashe or like the Kennen or like the Viego, who then have a chance to pop off during the course of the fight. So that is something pressing. Cloud Drake is exceptional for the side of Converse here, which is something to keep in the mind of Striking Vipers, which is they don't really want to give up Soul. It's still not just an auto win. It's not like if you take Infernal Soul for a team that's got a bunch of damage, but still with a composition like this, Cloud Soul is very, very good, and you definitely don't want to give that up if you're Striking Vipers easily.
Oh, and the arrow on to Last Dance. Last Dance, unfortunately, even with the satchel charge, you had to flash away. And look at the Olaf chasing. The bomb will scare him away eventually. But so much has been used now out of Ziggs just to survive.
Yeah, you have Ziggs burns pretty much every defensive tool that he's got in the kit, but you also lose both the Ragnarok and also the Enchanted Crystal Arrow around the Dragon Timer, and they got nothing for it as long as Ziggs can come back in time. This feels like a timer for Striking Vipers to look for their 5-on-5, for their fight setup around this Dragon, because you know that Converse wants to try to pull this. ZMT would need to get a distortion. Thankfully, Potato Balls kind of blocks that with his body. They're just going to focus instead on going for the Dragon, snagging this one away. They could try to turn off of it as much as possible. They might just have to sack mid-tower. They're going to leave one here just to try to make sure that that's not going to be the case. Well played right there.
Nicely played by Striking Vipers to scare off the members too from mid lane. There weren't any minions to really work for the side of Converse, so even with that play, even with the desperation to try to see if they can get something, grasp at the straws of the turret itself, they only got it down to 50%.
They did. And that gets matched in kind. I know Panther right now is looking for a flank.
Flash in, and that's a slicing Maelstrom. They got the stun on the Blossom with the arrow onto Last Dance to flash away.
ZMT
but they've got the kill on the other side. ZMT with the flank. This is the LeBlanc angle you always look for. They've got Ziggs, but now a huge shield for melee with the going to Golden as well. But there's so many low health bars on the other side. You got to be careful. They're getting kited around, and they are ace.
Oh my goodness, the tools started to come back up from the side of Converse, but again, they wasted so much at the beginning of the fight, didn't accomplish all that much, and ZMT immediately erases their consistent damage source that is the Ashe behind everything, and they can't focus down targets fast enough. Every single person on this team is a threat on the side of Striking Vipers. You've got ZMT who's still popping people. Eventually, Last Dance did go down off the back of a second Ashe arrow, but they put so much focus into making sure Ziggs went down. They weren't able to get Aurelia, they weren't able to get Xin Zhao, who both have really good consistent damage as well. And that's now the breaking point. Converse all of a sudden have lost the Dragon. They weren't able to push down mid-tower. They lose mid-tower to ZMT, and they lose this Baron, which gives a massive gold deck. 5,000 gold now to the side of Striking Vipers is almost certainly the point now that Converse is going to have really bad struggles trying to find any semblance of a fight into.
And Dina, this is what you had been talking about with both teams. For Converse, they had to make plays. They had to make sure they were the ones always proactive. But sometimes you make a mistake along the way with that kind of play. For the side of Striking Vipers, all they had to do is wait for said mistake and capitalize off of it immensely.
They do. And now they're in a position that they feel fine, like 5-on-5 fighting. You've got Aurelia into a great place. You've got Xin Zhao into a great place. LeBlanc is still, I think, your number one key. ZMT's ability to either side lane into anybody or more specifically blow anyone up is something big. The other thing is Striking Vipers this whole game has had a problem getting caught out in a single lane, being too far up, whether it's like Last Dance DF, whether it's Anime Girl, things like this right here.
All right, well, Last Dance, even with the Zonias, the satchel charge on top of him, he dies immediately. He used the bomb to get the wave. Clever.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work, but hey, it's clever. If you're going to die, you might as well do something like that on the way out.
100%. Now you do have sidewave pred up, and this is where I'm in a little bit of disbelief because the wave was coming. Ziggs can play much further back. The Asher was able to catch him out at a solid timing, so I want to give credit more so to Scary Jerry than I want to take it away. But you were really far up. Again, like if you're sitting up in mid lane trying to throw bombs to preemptively catch the wave, at least wait until Anime Girl and ZMT are set up on the side waves so that they have the immediate push starting into towers. Because if this happens 15, 20 seconds later on the next wave, even if it works out to catch him and even Blossom on top of it, they probably are able to pull bottom or top tower or even both off the back of mid outer going down, which is 100% worth for Striking Vipers, only because, again, they got a little bit antsy last dance, trying to keep them out of mid lane as fast as possible.
All right, Rebel, you're going to think I'm trolling here, but I'm looking at itemization, and I'm looking at builds for the team. Potato, build me a Blade of the Rune King.
You want Potato to build Blade of the Rune King? Who's the percentage health for?
No, I just want it.
You just want Blade of the Rune King. I don't disagree necessarily. I think there are carry items that could be maybe a little bit better. Black Cleaver could be one that's really helpful in this situation. You could go like the set optimal build with like Black Cleaver, Titanic Hydra, have like 5,000 health or something
but that
like that
doesn't
with a
attack
Titanic Hydra
faster
nuts,
and heal faster too. You see? Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Redemption is still good.
all right. Now you're going down some dark sciences that even I won't go to towards. But looking at this, like you were already reacting to, it's ZMT with these angles. Scary Jerry is always going to be the target, and ZMT is going to have all this. Just jumps forward, chunks out potato balls too.
Oh yeah. Anybody he's able to get one combo onto with the Q and the mark damage that comes out is going to be more than enough damage to actually push people back. So well played thus far. Also, the Ziggs bomb's coming out. They're sieging with 5 members. I would prefer to see at least one person in a side wave. I think they could actually make that happen with Anime Girl, but they're terrified about getting forced onto, which I can respect. Blossoms did a really great job catching them last time, but they weren't ready to like follow up on the massive magnet pull that had come through from the likes of Blossoms, which was their issue last time. If they were set up for it as a 4-man squad, they should be able to counteract that or at least stall that fight long enough for Anime Girl to end up there, and that's what you would be preferring to do right here and right now. Dragon's going to be up in a few seconds. They never took a reset, so this actually is really good for Converse if they're able to snag this one away, because they can force onto 4th Dragon and attempt to go for a soul point here. It looks like Striking Vipers probably just has to give that one away.
Yeah, I like that play from the side of Converse. They made sure to cancel any recalls. You can see that on the way out, that Striking Vipers were trying to at least get a little bit of vision control, set themselves up, but they were constantly being harassed by Olaf the entire way. He was routing them the whole way, following them right behind, so that way they couldn't get those resets off. They couldn't get themselves in position quickly enough to turn for the dragon.
It was a very well-played setup right there. Converse able to catch Striking Vipers again, just pushed a little too far up during the course of this process to look for mid-tower, even though they weren't able to get it. Again, that's why you want side lane, only because if you could have pulled bot inner tower and shoved a wave there, you might have forced Converse to respond in another place on the map, and it wouldn't have given them ability to try to punish you on your way out from that mid-siege. It's at least something to consider, rather than like doing what they did, which was force really heavily into mid-siege, pull out really late. Converse threatens the potential engage, and then you lose that dragon, which then opens up potentially Converse to snag the dragon soul on this next play if you're not like absolutely precise with your dragon take.
All right. So GA has been built up by potato balls. Now I'm gonna hit you with some dark sciences. You ready? Now you build the Zonias on potato balls.
You built the Zonias on potato. If he had any AP ratios, I would agree with you.
ZMT tried to go for that assassination onto Scary Jerry, but it's going to be the Negative Storm in the backline with Krakodon on top of him as well. The flash coming in, but look who's right there. Anime Girl jumping on top of him into the backline. Rock is going to be the next target that they want to be able to take with the double kill. Coming in with another one on a melee, chased down by these blade surges over and over and over again. They even got the bounce around for Krakodon, and it's going to be a triple kill for the side of Anime Girl. An ace cleanly done by the Vipers.
Might just be the entire game, because Last Dance DF is still available, has the W's and things. They have more than enough wave. They've got 30 seconds. This is going to be the end of the game. It is a team fight look from the side of Converse where they find ZMT with a perfect arrow, but they can't follow up on it. Like ZMT was able to sneak back to his other distortion. They have to separate so far. Their backline ends up getting pushed by the side of Anime Girl, by Krakodon, by the remainder of this team. And from that point, you're just like fighting back to front. Eventually, these side laners from the side of Striking Vipers got to the point where they could not be matched from the other side solo lanes. And because of that, they were patient. They didn't get forced on enough. They didn't give up enough to the side of Converse, and they end up outscaling taking this game.
And this goes all the way back to what you were talking about before, where everyone on the side of Striking Vipers had been punished at some point by Converse except LeBlanc. The only one that was left alone was the LeBlanc to keep getting this gold, keep getting these items, to the point when finally ZMT joined in. Those flanks were immaculate, and so impressive to just scare off any member. Scary Jerry was the one scared off for sure.
That he was. Unfortunately, they couldn't use those picks like effectively to find the correct number of objectives. They forced really heavily a number of times just to make sure one person would go down, which was unnecessary. They had to understand where their composition was standing, that not only did you have to force early, but also you really desperately needed to control some win condition, and when you didn't get either Rift Herald, when you didn't have your Dragon stacked properly all the way up, that was the problem you're going to run into. So Converse still, they did have a very competitive game to begin with. If they're capable of drafting something that works a little better in a pure 5-on-5 sense, I think this game does look a lot different because they had really good fights a number of times.
I agree. It was actually a lot more close in the early stages than I was going to give credit initially to the side of Converse. They played a lot of those plays well. It just came down to a couple mistakes here and there that cost them because, unfortunately for them, it was a far harder to execute composition that they had drafted for themselves. While the Vipers, all they had to do was wait. They had to be patient, wait for the mistakes, and they were able to punish.
That they were. It was. It's one where, like, going back to the drawing board here for Converse, it feels like you didn't do too much wrong in that game. You just didn't do enough right to win something for yourselves. So what you need is one extra tool of some forcing move to be able to work with so that you can attack without like leaning super hard in. If you have to pull 3 members to bot lane to pick off the Aurelia, if you can do that with 2 members by picking something other than Olaf, picking something other than like Lulu, something along those lines, that's your play. Because if you are able to make those plays and convert it with less members, all of a sudden you look a lot better. You're doing things faster, you're doing things more efficiently, you're covering more of your map, and it looks much, much better from the side of Converse. So at least keep that in mind, I think. The side of Striking Vipers have to know that's the case. I would like to see them have something that is more attacking to begin with as well, only because I don't like comps that sit there and wait, and it's like, okay, if you beat me, then I have no way to get back in. I don't like those types of comps. So for Striking Vipers, I want to see them with something to attack with to begin the game, rather than just playing reactively.
And we'll see if they're going to be able to do that going into Game 2, because right now they're up 1-0. We're going to toss a break. When we come back, we'll have more of the quarterfinals, and Orbital and the rest of the desk will break down this game, so stick around.
All right, back on the analyst desk here, and I mean, RMC, OP, that was the game.
Yeah, indeed that was. There was a lot of back and forth in the early game, but you know, ZMT just putting on a little bit of a clinic of how to use LeBlanc clone.
Yeah, it was that last fight, Orbital, especially to me, was just insane watching ZMT break ankles. But it wasn't just about the last fight. I mean, right from the get-go, the draft already was interesting. And one of the things I noticed when I was prepping for these games was that Striking Vipers, they're really good at drafting, especially really good at drafting strong early games, which they then kind of snowball into the mid to late game. Now, I know Sean had some very strong opinions about Converse's draft here.
I mean, I like the draft overall, but I thought, you know, guy named Melee mid laner is coming in. I looking at all this, I'm thinking, okay, Viego's only seen really in jungle. Is that going to be Olaf into the Aurelia and we do the Cannon into the Blanc? I'm here for it. That didn't happen, but they still leveraged, you know, the early strengths of their comp with like, you know, splitting the map and, you know, getting on the late invade and stuff like that, which I think we were talking earlier, RMC, you were talking about the lane strengths that were coming from Striking Vipers, and that kind of like subverted their plans in the early game to where they couldn't play around those, which led, you know, to early farm lead for the Olaf, and then obviously translating that into the first dragon of the game, like right around 6 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we have the do we have the replay Orbital, you know, for that late invade?
I don't believe we have that one. We do actually have another replay, I believe, coming in here. Actually, a little bit later. So this was after I...
That is criminal, and I want to see more of that.
Yeah, and that's the first time we get to see kind of the strength of the composition, like you said, from Striking Vipers. They know what to draft, they know how they want to play around it, and this comes in a little bit later as well. At the first, I want to say one of the first actual Dragon fights that we had. This is about 17 minutes into the game, so OP, yeah. So and that was like the first stat check as well, and you were talking about how a lot of these champions, how they interact. CVP, of course, were able to pressure the early game. This is where I feel it slowly started to fall apart, right? With all of that aggression, with all of the focus that they had. And when we have it, so we are actually going to bring it up here. I'm very sorry about that. My bad. But
I think the idea for the next game is we get the lobby for it.
Yeah.
But then, like, we'll have to toss to a break. It's the old school style.
With the Vanguard's Edge, I actually think it's a massive wipe to where CVP is not in a state to where they can still try to contest, because this Viego in these fights was a little bit, unchecked, but you can see when they're starting to focus down the same target that they can really make their composition and how they want to lock down certain targets work for them with the chase, with the undertows and the ashlows and everything like that. But as we saw later on, once the LeBlanc is in these fights, it's a totally different thing if it's all from the get-go. So
yeah, maybe this goes all the way back to your idea of, hey, maybe we don't put the Viego in that mid lane. Maybe we have the cannon. Maybe it would have been a little bit different, right?
yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it's just the laning strength. And I want to point out something about ZMT. ZMT ended the game 3-1 and 9. It's not like the LeBlanc was ultra fed with kills. Like, ZMT was picking up assists. He was just playing it super, super well, and it just feels like Striking Vipers maybe needed to play around a little bit more. I spoke to their owner, Brotherhood, and he mentioned that right now he thinks this Striking Vipers team is really strong, and that the only people who can beat Striking Vipers champions is Striking Vipers champions. They kind of troll themselves. And I think that's what that last replay kind of showed there. If you go in when you don't have your strong points together, it doesn't work out. But when they did have ZMT, that was a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, you're almost leading in straight into this next team fight that we are going to show on the screen. This is a little bit later, about 5 minutes later. And this actually plays into that point. The strong points came together.
Yeah, and the team composition from Converse is strong in the team fights, but that's when they can team fight, and it didn't happen here. The engage was great. The arrow from Scary Jerry was great, and they won the front end of the fight, right? You can see that they're doing pretty well. The only thing is they're lacking damage because Scary Jerry's dead, but the reason why Scary Jerry was dead, and actually the first casualty of that fight, was that they lost track of where ZMT was there. They were so focused on the main big team fight that they forgot the option, the ability for Striking Vipers to just get a pick on your backline, kill your squishies, and then suddenly you're fighting a 4v5. And despite 4v5, it was actually kind of close.
Yeah, it was a little bit interesting. I think you just see a little bit of like maybe tunnel vision right there. They were obviously playing off the Ash arrow very well with the flash from the Kinnan right there, but you have to be able to mark these assassins. We were talking about it earlier, RMC, about like it's a 1-3-1 comp versus a team comp, and they can easily wave clear. So if you're not trying to get these picks ahead of time, or if you're all grouped and you're not marking these flankers, the Aurelia and the LeBlanc, you're going to have a really, really hard time team fighting and just leaving your backline to dry like that.
Yeah, and I mean, we're actually going to get the last replay as well, and this is what happens when it gets to late game. And it still breaks her ankles to a very, very large degree. The last replay that we have is a team fight for ZMT.
Yeah, okay, so the cast is recovering the main fight, and that is very, very important. But I want to draw attention to this LeBlanc and how it works. So killing the LeBlanc is kind of the win con for Converse at this point. If you kill ZMT, the fight power is how. But look at what happens to ZMT. Once again, with the clone, the decoy pulls people away and just breaks Potato Ball's ankles here. Potato Ball needed to be with the team, needed to help out, but they were trying to kill this low health LeBlanc who's just distracting. And, well, too bad. ZMT lives and distracted the biggest carry of Converse out of that fight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they try to get the LeBlanc, but I think after like the initial like burst from there, if you're Olaf and you peel back and like ZMT is like out of the fight, you can try to peel back. And like help out your Scary Jerry, who was like fearing for his life for the entirety of the rest of that game. But it's It was really, really tough. Nice little dance blue suede shoes from ZMT right there. But, you know, it'll be something that I'm sure that they'll probably look to address in the draft maybe, or just, you know, something, maybe they have some sort of like counter to it that we won't know about.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, we will have an option to see what they do bring to the table. Because, again, it's only game one. Plenty more games to play. And now that they have a taste of what each team can bring to the table, now they get to go back to the drawing board and bring out something new. We'll go to a very quick break and come back with some more League of Legends action here with the Unified Premier League. Don't go anywhere.
Oh, wait. Hello?
Okay.
Hello? Can you hear us now?
Okay.
Are we coming
Yeah,
in
we'll
loud
find
and
out in a
clear?
second, I guess.
Yes, we will. Yes,
Mhm.
we will.
You know what? You know what it was? We were mouthing all these words somewhere else in the world on another League of Legends broadcast. It was being ventriloquist to just like another casting pair. So people were
That's what it was.
listening to us, and they're just like, "What are they talking about?" They have no clue. They don't realize that we're just like some other completely different part of the world.
We're very talented that way. Very talented. It's one of those things that it's a skill that you acquire over many courses. But going into the points that we were talking about last time that unfortunately other people heard, but not you guys out there, was looking at the games between Striking Vipers champions and looking at the game for Converse on the other side. Converse had this really difficult to execute composition. Worked at it at first, but unfortunately it came undone at the seams and it was picked apart by the Vipers.
Yeah, I'll summarize everything that we had gone through, at least to talk about, which is, A, for Converse, it would be nice to see a kind of direction selected, whether they go back towards something that's more teamfight oriented or they go for something a bit more like early oriented. I'm comfortable with, because it seems like that was something that could help them out, where it's like they don't have to make super aggressive plays to then convert into a team fight, which is a bit more difficult than anything else that could come through. The alternative to that, again, is something else we talked about, which is if you're playing something the way that you did in the previous game, the greatest example is the Aurelia. You were doing well, like killing the Aurelia, but you weren't shutting out the gold value that Aurelia was getting, because she was still getting CS, still getting kills, even when she was trading off. Even when she wasn't trading off, she's still picking up enough gold to be relevant. You need to cut that off faster. You need to get Kennen into a place where you can stand in front of his wave, say, okay, Aurelia, you're not touching your wave. You need to be able to do something like that to compete against these champions, to make sure they're not just collecting gold anyway and becoming these very powerful champions, even if you're matching them, if you're not really comfortable taking the later stage team fights that they did. So something else to consider here from the side of Converse is they've swapped over to the blue side.
They have, and we're also seeing a lot more focus on what we saw in the previous game. LeBlanc, Ziggs, Xin Zhao all banned away, the Diana being the final thing to take away from Kraken. Pretty much going to put Kraken on something we haven't seen too much. We've been seeing mostly Diana, mostly Xin Zhao throughout the regular split, so I want to see if Viego, I'm imagining Viego is going to be that last span. What is going to be the change of coming in from there?
I wonder if they're willing to. Oh, they go to Lee Sin right here just to make sure that Potato Balls isn't going to be able to snag that one away. I know that Potato Balls, I was surprised a little bit that Lee Sin didn't come in as fast as possible. I do like the immediate priority on Aurelia. Not only was it great for Anime Girl, but also, again, melee mid laner can take this into the mid lane pretty easily. But they are responding right in kind. Varus was banned away last time, making sure Scary Jerry didn't get it. They snag it for Last Dance TF, and they get the Viego away. Yeah,
the trade there is really peculiar for me, even though I do like that the side of Converse get this Aurelia for melee. Another melee mid laner that we saw in the Viego last time, but Aurelia is one of those things that can go into some of these mages in the mid lane a lot more confidently, not worrying about getting bullied around, and then Sejuani on top of it. I always love that pair up, but now if they can get a melee top lane too, that's just going to be the icing on the cake.
I see. So what we've gone to now, I think, from the side of Converse, is they, in the previous game, put a bunch into Potato Balls, saying, okay, Potato Balls is going to be how we're going to play out this game as much as possible with this Olaf.
Okay.
He has to command early, then becomes this Death Ball kind of leader, where you throw him in with like 7 kills, 8 kills, can become a damage threat and soaks a bunch of damage, especially with Gore Drinker. This game, they're putting all of their eggs into the melee mid laner basket with the Aurelia, because now you've got Bard for roaming support. You can shut out Rift Herald plays when they're prioritized early, and you've got Sejuani to pair with that melee champion. Tons of CC allows for plenty of the ability for the Aurelia to really impact a team fight. You notice, though, again, Striking Vipers, they pull out the tried and true classic counterpick to the likes of the Sejuani in this Trundle.
But that also means we're getting another lane of Viego, most likely. Trundle could be top lane. I've mentioned this before, that we actually did see this over in the Proving Grounds qualifiers. We saw that it was Dragoon playing that top lane to try to bully around, but it was also something that was chosen more as a counter. It wasn't just flexed into the top lane after having already been locked in. They waited it out to see what it was going to be into. Here, having it blind, not knowing exactly who it's going to be top lane, since Panther's probably going to be back into the top lane, going to be melee mid in melee mid. And here with the second round of bans, we see a lot of ADC focus on the side of the Vipers, while taking a little bit more of the comfort away with the Nautilus and Silas from the side of Converse.
I'd like to see the support come out here, only because I think you can do some really nice work if that Trundle does end up being a bit of a flex with the Viego. Like you had said, there's multiple positions. Viego can go top, mid, or jungle. The Trundle can go into the top or the jungle in the right situation. And if you're playing for more team fight, which Striking Vipers clearly did in the previous game, Trundle's going to be in that fight most of the time as it is, unless you go for a very split push heavy, like where you go for like everything split push, like Trinity Force, things like that. And if that's the case, all you have to do is press your ultimate button against the Sejuani anyway, and you're perfectly fine. We see again, it is Panther who goes back to the likes of the Kennen as that comfort top laner. Now the curiosity comes to, okay, what is your response to the Kennen pick top lane? Can you put Trundle or Viego into that matchup, or are you just looking for a top laner now?
But I'm also looking at this final pick for Converse Purple, whether it's going to be, my thought processes are Ezreal or Jhin into the bot lane. Caitlyn, though, also can work out pretty well, and it's not something we see too often anymore. You're kind of shaking your head a little bit on that one. Let me hear your thoughts.
It's something that, like, it doesn't follow up fantastically with the rest of the team, because what you've got is, like, dive, a bunch of CC with like a Bard who can play really close with like stuns, and then a Sejuani who's going to put her body into the enemy team or like have the ultimates and stuff. And then you've got Caitlyn, where it's like, okay, Caitlyn can be played too, moved around, siege with really heavily, but the rest of your team, like when it comes to sieging, is all about fighting and things like that. And so if they're going to play to Caitlyn, I'm comfortable. If they're going to go down to Scary Jerry Rocks like we had talked about, that's a play to work with if they're going to use this team fight as the threat to allow them to control like the siege that they're working with. But outside of that, you can just pick Dive on that champion, pick Samira, pick Kai'Sa, something like that, fit it in with this composition a lot better.
And the final pick on the side of Striking Vipers is a Akali. That's a lot of low range on their side outside of that Varus to try to contend with something that you talked about, the dive potential that Converse have, even though you're not every element of that is going to be dive. It is still an interesting kind of composition going into something that is trying to kite themselves back.
You got a lot of forward pressure from Converse, where you got like Aurelia wants to go forward, Sejuani wants to go forward, Kennen wants to go forward. The one champion who wants to stay back is the likes of the Caitlyn. Something I always love to harp on is there's champions that are specifically designed to remove that character from any given composition. Characters like that are like Blue Kayn. Blue Kayn's amazing at shoving out characters that are trying to follow the rest of their team. Akali is the other one. It is near impossible to get something to stick onto Akali when it comes to engage unless they really are excellent with their chain CC. If the rest of the team is around, even that's not usually enough, and it's hard to deny an Akali the ability to get onto backline one way or another. So I love this coming out as the possibility to attack from the side of Striking Vipers into the Caitlyn. The rest of the composition now becomes a question mark of, okay, how do Trundle and Rel deal with all this kind of forward pressure from Kennen, from Aurelia, from Sejuani? But it feels like, especially if Last Dance goes for on-hit, this should be perfectly fine. They should be able to find their way through a fight.
Yeah, and for now, we are going to toss it to a break before getting into our quarterfinals. Game 2 between Striking Vipers champions and Converse University Purple. So stick around. We'll be right back with game number 2. Hello, hello, welcome back. It's the quarterfinals, game 2. Striking Vipers champions taking on Converse University Purple. They have swapped sides, but it's still a point lead at the moment for the Vipers. They win this one, get the 2-0 to march on to the semifinals.
But they will. Not want it from the side of Converse. They don't want this to be the end of their season right here, right now. So they got to win out for the remaining 2 games here inside of this series. See if this composition that they've designed themselves is enough for it. I'm loving what I'm seeing pretty much in every single position. We also have some spicy
I thought you were
keystones
talking
here
about
on
the
their
skins
side as
right
well.
now.
That's
That
pretty cool.
we're seeing all these lovely skins here. You know, Last Dance having the nice skin here. Still the best skin by far is Pajama Guardian Urgot. We can all agree on that one. I know that it's universally beloved by me, and so that means everyone else loves it as well.
Universally beloved by me.
See, I feel like
okay.
you sometimes forget how I am, Dean.
I
Like,
realize how you are.
we go, you know, a couple days where we don't get a cast together, and then when we get a cast together, you're like, oh god damn it, that's right.
Yeah, I recall that comes through.
No
Thank you for
skin,
that,
Scary
observer.
Jerry. What is this?
Yeah,
Come
this-
on.
Fresh Caitlyn skin. That's the best way to play around. I want to make
Fresh.
note of this really quickly, just because I think it'll
Okay.
eventually get brushed past. Which is, you'll see phase rush on Sejuani. The reason you do this is because if you take aftershock and your passive is up, and you press Q into Trundle, and then he presses his ultimate, he will steal more stats from you than you actually have. And you'll go into negative territory, which means that he will absolutely obliterate you. So that's why you do not take
never
aftershock.
thought of it that way. ZMT though, he's getting flashed on. Unfortunately, too late. First blood taken over by the side of melee mid.
There are a lot of champions, a lot of them, that you would be like, I could expect a level 2 gang, right? Sejuani is not one that comes to mind. And yet here we are, playing into melee mid laners Aurelia, knowing that you got the ability to go for that stun immediately in the confines of the game, and that allows for ZMT to go down quickly. You burn the flash off of the champion as well, and it only costs the flash of the Sejuani, who should be perfectly fine. Trundle can still get aggressive, but very well played to begin this game here from the side of Converse.
Yeah, it's a nice trade there, getting that first kill. Oh, and getting the flash too. It was flash for flash PB for ZMT, and now you can see Melee just going to be able to shove in this minion wave, keep ZMT completely controlled, so that this Akali, it's kind of like Akali. I always feel like it's a light version, and at least in mid lane of LeBlanc, where you want to play around the other lanes and move around, and now you're just not going to have that opportunity.
Melee mid laner is getting kind of stuck here, though, because that ward is in that brush, which is allowing for ZMT to kind of control when melee mid laner is going to back. And without mana, it's actually really difficult here for the Aurelia to try to keep control of this laning state. Notice, if you will, also Trundle on the way up. The coverage is going to be here from Sejuani, but if the pillar's in the right position, it could be monstrous.
And here comes Krakedon. He's in the wings, but there's still flash for melee. No mana, though. Pillar's going to be used, but there's going to be the Blade Surge away. And now you've got PB nearby with the Permafrost onto Trundle. They'll fall back, though, afraid with no mana for melee mid laner. That's not going to really work out, but that was a nice stun. On to Last Dance. He's going to be able to get a bit of damage back.
Watch TP from mid laner here. Both bot lanes are able to support this. They're kind of like running into each other. Akali's here much faster. Krakedon was trying to get that Potato Ball stuck in the pig.
Yeah, you don't want to be a part of this one. This isn't looking too good, trying to be able to get away. It's going to be the pillar. And it's still the kill for ZMT. And now Scary Jerry Rocks, why are you here? There's a cleanup on the side of ZMT. 2 kills already. Can you get the early triple kill? They're trying to get nearby, but it doesn't matter. They already got the 2 kills funneled into mid lane.
Where is the Aurelia in this play? You have TP. You can come in. There was no ward. They went into the river. I think it's either a mistake from Potato Balls or mid lane right there, because you had 4 members on both sides. It should have been a winning play with Aurelia to join in there, because ZMT didn't have the health bar, but instead just like teleports into mid lane a few seconds late, can't arrive at the fight in time, and that opens up this bottom lane play where like all of a sudden Krakedon is able to control that Trundle. They're going back to mid lane, force the flash out of the Aurelia.
And here, just looking for that. Yeah. We had a little bit of a tech issue, but hopefully we'll be able to get Rebel on the same pace as the rest of us. But right now, we actually see that PB on the other side was waiting to see if he could try to get a fight back onto Krakedon, Anime Girl. They're just going to be able to secure the double scuttle away from the side of away from Converse. Striking Vipers have gotten a good pace in this early game after that disastrous first kill.
They did. And most importantly, it was off the back of the Akali, who again was kind of the target of affection to begin with in the course of this game. So there's that to talk about as well, which is just that like the Aurelia was supposed to be the target here to make sure that you're taking all these that kind of resources to begin with from Converse. Hasn't worked out.
No, but at least ZMT there in the mid lane will be safe, and this gives a little bit of time alone in mid lane to the side of Melee mid laner. Try to get a bit of a CS lead, keep accruing more and more gold. But I'm looking at the inventories as we have this nice easy take of the Dragon. Without the mid laner there, no fight. So it will be easily secured. Look at this though. Look at ZMT. Already getting a Seeker's Arm Guard.
Yeah, just making sure to have that defensive ability into the likes of the laner to make sure Aurelia cannot continue the snowball to come out here.
Where's the pillar? Crack it on, holding on to that for quite some time, getting a lot of damage. The flash and the prediction from Anime Girl.
Incredible by Anime Girl right there to be able to find that prediction like you had just attested to. What a play right there from the Viego. This is a lane we hadn't heard much from the beginning. There wasn't that kind of level 1 that had come through. There wasn't any real action right there. Krakenon on the response to the Dragon comes up, punishes Panther on this Kennen pick that he's been on for 2 games in a row now. Has had fantastic performances previously in this clip. It has not been working as part
Magical Journey, and it's going to be the Pheromancy TP behind. Here's another TP as well. Who's going to be here first? It's going to be Anime Girl with a lot of damage on the other side, but Anime Girl taking a lot of damage too from the Pilt over Peacemakers and the stun. So Scary Jerry is going to be funneled to kill as well. Mid lane, a fight, level lead. Vanguard's edge. ZMT underneath the turret, but dies to the shutdown on the other side.
It does. Plays across the map from the side of Converse, responding to everything that had come out. Both these teams finding their strikes at the beginning of the game. Even Last Dance trying to find something. Diego.
Yeah, I'm like, Scary Jerry, don't back there, please. Thank you. Thank you. There you go. Take that Magical Journey.
So that whole bottom lane was just in a little bit of turmoil there for at least a slim second, but everything turned out okay. Big enough situation here, though. Mid laner, or my apologies, Melee mid lane, was able to find that kill into ZMT. The Aurelia still feeling perfectly fine into the Akali matchup. That's not something that you're going to be able to bank on forever, because again, it is difficult outside of mid lane to be able to try to find this engage. When the lanes get longer, the Aurelia is a little harder to get onto the Akali for. And Akali's job is really to have the gold to assassinate this Caitlyn, who, by the way, is going for lethality to begin this.
Oh, I can talk about this.
Yes.
I can seem smart, Dean.
Okay.
You want to know why?
Sure, go
because
ahead.
This is actually something I've been playing for a long time, and I was wondering that when I saw Dark Harvest on the side of Scary Jerry, if you just wanted to go for lethality here, because you had talked about that this, the Caitlyn, it's going to be hard for Caitlyn to join in any dives. I might have to put that on pause in just a moment because there is a little bit of skirmish happening at the blue buff. ZMT getting at least a slicing Maelstrom coming in from Panther to be able to get the double stun. But now on the other side, Melee mid laner doesn't have Edgar's edge at the moment. Waiting for the duet. They've got all this damage onto Blossom, even with the track repel and a blast cone nearby. They can funnel another kill over to Panther. That's going to be nice to be able to get the cannon ahead. But now Rocks with the Magical Journey right into 3 members. They've got the duet stun, and now Krakenjon taking a lot of damage. Flashed away, shut down, coming in from Anime Girl. But another duet turned around, flash over the wall from Potato with a Heartbreaker on top of him. They've got a stun from Destructive Maul and a double kill. All the while, we take a look at Blossom just kiting back Panther.
We have more potentially coming through. Oh!
Woo!
Well played right there.
There
Okay.
we go.
Wow. Okay, incredible stuff coming out of Anime Girl, who was able to completely take over that fight on the likes of the Viego. The top laner getting really involved. Fight was kind of scattered across the wind, and again, pulling Kennen out of that one was pretty big. Well played from Blossoms, but yeah, the Viego, the Akali, able to put a bunch of through damage. Now 4 kills in the back pocket of Anime Girl on this Viego is going to be near impossible to lane or team fight into. Reset City, something to be very mortified of if you're on the side of Converse, who just went down a ridiculous amount. You also think Trundle's in a position now. 5 assists, 53 CS, a huge amount ahead of Potato Balls at this point in the game. It's kind of difficult. Your top side from the side of Striking Vipers is all of a sudden just completely destroyed.
Oh, nice chain of corruptions. The built over Peacemaker not going to land, but the Sun will from Rocked. Getting a little bit of damage on the Last Dance. Oh. All right, I know it's probably better to talk about the Fad Viego, but God damn it, I'm going to talk about my lethality Caitlyn. Because you were talked about how difficult it is for Caitlyn to follow up dives. We're getting back to this. We're kind of recapping what we talked about before. And my thought process was, well, you know, a good way for Scary Jerry to be a part of it is kind of like how Varus is part of dives. He's got long range, he's got a good amount of damage when he uses those piercing arrows, as well as having Chain of Corruptions as a little bit of utility for the team. Well, Scary Jerry's got something similar with Pilt over Peacemaker. You don't have to charge it. You do have to root yourself temporarily, but you don't have to charge it. Pretty easy to be able to throw that out. plus her headshots get a lot of extra damage, and then Ace in the Hole chunks at people really bad, and it can do a lot of damage. And look at how squishy most of the members on the side of Striking Vipers are. The only real person that's probably going to be able to reliably tank it is maybe Blossoms, maybe Crack It On, but for a while it's not going to be the case.
I had heard ramblings about how Qmax and lethality Caitlyn was a bit better. I had still heard of it was the Gale Force, which was still being built, but then you'd go for pretty much all lethality items to come in, starting with something like the Collector, and you continued under that path with Dark Harvest. But this is kind of cool, like the full lethality, like you said. It's better accessibility for team fights. You're very insightful in that way, Mr. Magical. Your expertise on very niche builds is definitely coming to fruition here and help for the likes of the Caitlyn.
Look, I'm a mad scientist. We all know this. I come up with strategies that shouldn't always work, but about like once every like 100 they do work. So it's something. Okay, this is what I usually run whenever I play like ARAMs or I'm forced to play ADC because I don't want to play ADC, so I just build lethality Caitlyn.
Reasonable.
I also do that with Kalista and Xayah, by the way. It also works with them. And ooh, nice chain of corruptions, but the flash away from Last Dance to be able to survive. A lot of damage back onto Blossoms. Not nearly taking enough at the moment still. Well, long way until that Rel is going to feel tanky.
Absolutely. Rox has not been able to find the most roams to begin this game, but has actually used that portal in very convincingly effective ways to try to put aggression into the likes of Blossoms and Last Dance. So I got to give props to the Barks. I know this is something that they wanted in the first series, weren't able to get their hands on, weren't able to make it work. And now, having that comfort, again, really important for Converse to be able to continue. They are putting more and more pressure on the bottom side. It seems like every time that they're going for some sort of dive on bot side, the back had already come through from Last Dance, DF, and Blossom. So give them credit for their ability to understand this. Is now to top side. Rift Herald is available for Kraken, and they could go for the dive here on Panthera.
Going to be a rush on who's going to be able to get the turret first. You can see Kraken ready to cut the waves with the Slicing Maelstrom up. Going to get a stun as well on an Anime Girl, but a bit too early on that one. Panther the flash away to be able to escape, but unfortunately the burn of Red Buff and Dominus was able to pick up the kill. The Subjugate helped that a lot. But bot lane scared away on the side of Converse, trying to see if they can kite back away from ZMT. All the while, PB's on the other side. The heal will keep Rox in. Jerry barely alive. 2 TPs coming in. The knockback onto ZMT, but a huge amount of damage on the other side. Anime Girl at 50% stunned up by melee mid laner. Vanguard's Edge is still up if they want to be able to use it. The dive coming in to be able to pick up the kill. Anime Girl's got 5 kills and they're stolen away. Trying to dive on top, and here's melee kited back, and they've already got the kill from Anime. They can get their resets. One more auto attack, but Panther on the other side, who just showed up, doesn't get stunned by the maul, but instead gets pierced by the heart. Waiting one more tick of damage, waiting for the minions, and they could go for the dive. Godlike Anime Girl.
Across the board, ZMT is going to get picked up because of that tower shot that had come through, but right there, Converse finds strikes across the map, not only into bottom lane, that top lane play also adds on to the benefit that they were able to add into everything. Man, I can't speak enough to just how well Anime's Girl is playing inside of this. I was really worried when they went underneath of that tower that they weren't going to be able to find anything in that process. But fortunately, the engage range with the flash and the Q from the Sejuani soul that had been taken underneath the tower was enough to get them there. Well, yeah, they did end up trading a couple of kills back on a Kennen. They are shutting down the bot lane, which has been the really big focal point here from the side of Converse. They were able to get the Akali back into this one where, like, you've got nearly the completed item. And Viego, currently sitting 7-0 and 2, is going to be more than enough of a carry, and now in a side lane with a Wit's End is impossible for Kennen to respond to.
It's 14 minutes into the game, and he's got his second item completed, team.
Oh yeah, that's terrible.
and everyone always talks about Viego, second item, power spike, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, here you go. We're 14 minutes into the game. I guess it's late enough for this Viego to feel confident, even though mid lane gonna get the dodge away. That didn't connect?
That had to be like a 1 pixel difference on that Sejuani ultimate.
I thought that ZMT was dead. I was getting ready for that, and just it started waddling away like a duck, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's so painful. They just had to walk away with like their tail between their legs, unfortunately, as well. There was no one there to cover. ZMT just dies right there. Like, I guess the flash was available, so if the CC comes
not with the CC though. They would have been dead. Yeah.
It would have been tough one way or another. ZMT would have had to do something kind of drastic there to get out of that one. So really, really kind of wiping the sweat off the brow on that. As now topside is the play potentially to come through. They've got once again the Trundle here, and ZMT is going to add on to the dive pressure.
Oh, Panther, you've been in this situation before, and there's way more damage this time around from Anime Girl. Though the kite back will at least get shut down over for the side of Panther.
Yeah, the stun that had come through was actually quite nice, it was very nice from Panther to be able to actually use that one to stun underneath the tower. No Merc Treads yet, so not able to get any of the tenacity to come through, not able to deny the damage. It was all the tower for the most part from the side of Anime Girl. You'd have wanted Trundle to take that to start with. I think they got a bit antsy trying to force that one, and it ended up going on to Anime Girl, giving the shutdown over to the likes of the Captain.
Trying to flex the muscle, say, I'm going to hit you with my wallet here. 7-0 before the dive. Like, oh, I can kill you before my team even shows up. I don't need them. And then realizing the turret hurts.
Anime Girl is all about these plated steel caps, man. I do not get it. You can sit in a side lane permanently. You're playing into a Sejuani and a Bard and even like an Aurelia and a Kennen,
and you're gonna be
plated steel cap. Yeah. It's not even the auto attacking from like the Caitlyn. The only auto attacker is the Aurelia. Build the Merc Treads, man. You're killing me.
Well, I was just saying, you're gonna be side laning against Kennen too. It's not like you're gonna be side laning against Scary Jerry.
It's fine. It's fine. It is what it is. He's 8 kills in 16
Yeah,
minutes.
you know, he can do what he wants, yeah. He can do what he wants at this point.
He does what he pleases.
He's fed, he's got all this gold, he's 2 items ahead, and
Blossoms.
now that's a lot of damage on a Blossoms, and let's see that Lethality was able to get a stack of the Dark Harvest for Scary Jerry, but no more.
Blossoms even has to stick around because you can't back here. It's 2 dragons that are available.
Oh, this could be a big pick on to Anime Girl. Burn to the red buff. Everyone else on the side of Striking Vipers trying to stick it away. Not ZMT, though. ZMT dove right in. Low health bars on the side of PB. Kiting back, getting away, but Melee's the sacrifice instead for the team, so they keep the smite up and alive. And the flash in from Stolen in from Blossoms. Krakenon's kited back too. Last dance, look how low he is on the other side. It had Scary Jerry had the ace in the hole, that'd be a death, but instead they'll get the objective.
I had the belief there that they were going to be able to flop that fight. They had lost Blossoms and they lost Anime Girl immediately in that fight, but unfortunately just were not able to clutch that at the very end. The Kennen ultimate on top of 4 members was enough to really be able to turn that one. ZMT nearly able to carry that fight with the likes of the Akali, but end up giving up 3rd Dragon and more kills. Striking Viper still have a gold lead, but Converse have put them into a kind of a really rough situation to be in.
It's one of those things where you almost wonder if the side of Striking Vipers had just kited. They got the great engage from ZMT. Good pick. Kite it back, wait it out, reset, wait for Anime Girl because there's no TP. You're not going to be able to get your Viego, who's got most of the gold for the team. When you even take a look at where the gold difference is for both teams, nearly all of it is into Anime Girl.
On that initial engagement, losing Anime Girl was huge against the side of the fight. I also have to say, like, not only stacking into Kennen, which was a difficult process, I think the problem with Striking Vipers in that setup as well was they really wanted to compete for Dragon the entire time, which is why they forced an engagement really quickly. If they decided, hey, we want to take the fight because we want to take the gold advantage and really cripple off the side of Converse from taking any 5-on-5 fights, they could have let them into the pit further, then started to kind of circle the wagon, so to speak, in that situation. But instead, they were in the river contesting as fast as possible, trying to deny the 3rd Dragon stack, and all it did was end up losing that situation. What an ultimate!
That is a big one, and look at the damage that comes in from Lethality. Caitlyn chunked that last dance, but now all 5 members of Striking Vipers are here to scare off. Melee mid laner gets bounced around by the pillar. The pillar from Trundle Krakenon. Paying dividends, though they've got the root. No, I don't know if you wanted to use that one. It was point blank onto Anime Girl. Rift Herald pop will be able to get a lot of damage onto the cert, but yeah, we got to keep our eyes on this Kennen, waiting for him. He has flash available. Slice of Maelstrom is up. He's scared off at the moment. ZMT looking for the backline. We've seen this before. Game 1 looked similar. The block for ZMT, similar with this Akali, looking for the angle.
Looks like things are going to finally break. Melee mid laner ended up in a bad situation because of the fantastic pillar that had come through from Krakenon. And because of that, they're able to generate more of a fight that they wanted. Not to mention a lot of the ultimates. Sejuani ultimate was used very quickly. Rock's ultimate was used very quickly. And they weren't able to find really great kind of like value with what they had burnt during that process. So yeah, they did have this massive Kennen ultimate, but if there were any summoner spells, if any defense was able to come through from the side of Striking Vipers, you almost certainly lose that engagement on the side of Converse. So they play more on the back foot. They give that mid tower away. They know that plays bad.
What?
Because of that, they just snag up that kill against the Akali.
What?
They held the Kennen ultimate, so that means that
yeah,
they just stand there, wait for Akali to show up.
But then ZMT even flipped back into that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Is it though?
It's fine.
Is it though?
He needed a fast back. That's what needed to happen.
Is it though?
It was blind. I'll give him that credit. Maybe
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, that's
Our
unfavorable.
flash away. Yeah, this could be really bad for Crackodon, but the fact that Anime Girl is nearby makes it a little bit risky. They all have to peel back. Brox looks like he might have been picked off. The magical journey flashed away to be able to stay alive and stay safe for the team.
That pillar is still just like gonna haunt my nightmares from Crackodon. But yeah, able to walk out of that situation. All of a sudden, strike backs. Maybe Anime Girl looking for something into these two. He doesn't have reinforcements yet because Crackodon's not here.
It's a long lane, and the damage from Anime Girl 1v2 can easily take him on, and it's stolen away the soul of Panther to be able to chase down Potato Balls. It's done for a double kill.
Well played. Well played from the side of Anime Girl. Able to trade off what had happened just a minute ago to ZMT by finding the two members that were up there when they over-aggressed for the tower. They pushed just too far. They don't have mid-pressure because they had just burnt off the health bar from Rocks and a bit from Scary Jerry. And because of that, now the over-push on top lane was committed to. They end up getting punished for it from Anime Girl, and now super easy Baron to take. There's no jungler, there's no teamfight to come through because Kennen is gone, and there's a lot of consistent DPS between the Varus, the Trundle, and the Viego, of which, two of which are very, very fed at that point. So opening up the game, breaking it wide open yet again is Striking Vipers here at this 21-minute mark. They're going to have to deny Dragon. Mountain Soul isn't the worst thing to try to overcome, I suppose, if you've got this massive gold advantage on the side of Striking Vipers, but this Baron should give you everything you need to try to deny it away.
Right, and it's always about denying your soul, too. Even if it's Mountain Soul, even if it's Cloud Soul, you want to deny anything additional that your team could have, because that's still a bit of income that's made up by the loss that they have here, 5,500 gold behind. If they can get themselves a soul, a little bit more tankiness, especially for their Sedge wanting to survive a little bit longer, could be nice.
Please, walk into mid lane. You have Baron buff. Walk into mid lane. Empower your minions. Make sure that that is pushed out. They're like competing into the river as fast as possible, which is great, but this is what cost them last time. They should have enough set up. It looks like they were able to hold the wave because Blossom is here making sure that that's going to come through, so ZMT gets to collect that. But they're standing on the interior of the river. I don't know that you want to give pure team fight. Like, I feel like Striking Vipers are like testing them with their gold advantage, but I don't know that I love that. Don't give them the opportunity. Instead, push out bot, push out mid.
Oh, this could be a big pick though. ZMT got caught out by the Death Shape, but a nice engage coming in from Blossom. So Anime Girl can dive into the backline, but stunned up by Panther. The flash coming in, be able to get the kill on the other side. 1-for-1 at the moment. Chasing it down. ZMT waiting it out. They've got the easy double kill for Anime Girl. This Viego is so damn fed. There's little they can do to stop it.
Extremely well played right there. Able to find the catch-off onto two members, and that's two of the main damage members as well that are coming out. Now, they have the potential. They should just walk over to Dragon as fast as possible here.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. What? Though ZMT does die there. Yeah, he just got eviscerated by Panther. A lot more damage than you'd expect, especially with the Blighting Tool. But it's still going to be the turret that might fall. They're bouncing around Anime Girl, taking up a little bit of the damage, but got the Spectral Maul on a Potato Balls, and they've kited it back so Panther can get shut down gold and flash on top for a double kill.
That was, I think, exceptionally greedy from the side of Striking Vipers. They had this gold advantage. They had two full members down. If they just walk to Dragon and they take Dragon away, they deny that, then they walk as 5 members into mid lane, they can probably siege up and make sure that they take that mid inner. Instead, 3 members, matched by the 3 members that were there from the side of Converse, were able to get brought down one by one because Kennen has this Void Staff completed, has the Rocket Bell completed, and that's enough damage to be able to bring down members one at a time. Now a TP in a mid lane, look for another fight.
ZMT got a lot of damage immediately onto Scary Jerry and dives back in, but his perfect execution away. Blossom's now stuck in the middle of all 5. Ace in the hole, gonna pick up the kill. They've turned 2 more. They have a potential pick on a Crackodon as well. The TP for Anime Girl is going to be enough to scare off some low health bar members on the side of Converse, but those are some great picks coming in.
They are not ready for that team fight whatsoever that they're trying to set up, and it's only 2 members from the side of Striking Vipers that walk into that team. This is how they end up giving enough gold back to give competition to the side of Converse. They are winning this game from the side of Striking Vipers as long as they don't end up losing Mountain Soul, losing a bunch of gold. They have the advantage to work with here. But doing things like that, where you TP into mid lane and you commit into 5 members with 2, is not the move. There is no chief in the entire world that will tell you that that is the play whatsoever. It is a mistake beyond mistakes that Striking Vipers definitely do not need to be making, especially now you look at Panther. He was shut out in the very early phases. He was still down 3,000 gold. He's more than powerful enough to carry a team fight now.
I think he was at 1.1 and 4. Keep
Yes.
that in mind. He has been getting so much of this gold back for the team. Has completed the Void Staff with already having the Rocket Belt. Now a Seeker's Arm Guard in the inventory, as well as an Oblivion Orb to cut through any healing Anime Girl might have.
That might be the case. We're still getting into a point in the game. I want to see a little more armor from everybody here on the side of Striking Vipers, but they're desperately getting into this point where the Caitlyn's going to be not that valuable. You do have Gore Drinker from Melee mid
What do
laner.
you
It
mean?
needs
It's
that
always
first.
valuable. It's lethality Caitlyn, my dude.
I mean, with armor, like, it's just, it's going to come away. Also, what is that for? What is the Purchase Shard for?
That's a wrong purchase.
I was like, if you're going lethality, just full lethality. Why are you building rapid fire or storm fire? Okay, so it's not full commitment, I suppose. Scary Jerry wants a little bit of attack speed to work with.
Last Dance. That's not the member you want to necessarily catch up,
Oh
especially
my
when you
goodness.
whiff the Glacial Prison, and now they can re-engage, though a nice Slicing Maelstrom cuts them off. Blossom taking a lot of the initial, Brent of the damage, ZMT2 to full. Anime Girl diving to the backline with 2 kills already. Soul and Soul, and they can bounce them around. They've got the Viego resets a bound. They've got the ace as well. Striking Vipers find the strike necessary, and they can sink their teeth into victory.
That's going to be their playoff spot that they're conferring right there. That's Converse. They missed 2 massive ultimates. The Slicing Maelstrom does nothing but stall the remainder of the fight. Nobody touched Anime Girl. He pretty much got Reset City top to bottom right there. Not to mention, you still had Last Dance. You still had damage healers. Everything came through. AoE alt tag from Striking Vipers. Converse put up a hell of a fight here in this game, punishing constantly when mistakes were being made from Striking Vipers to keep themselves valuable, but just was not enough. What a game from the side of Striking Vipers. Yet again, they're able to take this 2-0 against the side of Converse. Probably not as clean as they would have liked, but still, again, for a team that a couple of splits ago were having trouble finding wins, to come now into your first semifinals, really impressive.
Really, I mean, that's an amazing turnaround for this team, for this organization, to be able to get first place in your group here, get a nice, even if it wasn't fully convincing victories in each of these games, they still get the 2-0 sweep over the side of Converse University Purple,
Absolutely.
who fought valiantly in those games, but at the end of the day, it was just better team fighting. They had the right members fed at the right time. I mean, when you have a Viego with 2 items at 14 minutes, if you lose that game, maybe there's something going on there.
Yeah, the first game was a completely different story, whereas like you needed to be more proactive. This game was, they have good team fight if they're the ones forcing. When you can't land your ultimates, when those ultimates aren't tagging, when you aren't able to get the proper setup for Kennen to hit multiple members with that Slicing Maelstrom, who was really your primary carry in that game, like, you just can't take fights at all. Like, there's nothing to do right there. So yeah, they found a couple of moments, they found a couple of really nice strike backs, but at no point did I see them fully able to set, at no point did I find them able to fully set up entirely what it was that they were looking for, which was that kind of wombo combo-y team fight with Sejuani being able to ult and then Kennen being able to ult in on top of it and then have everything else follow through. And because of that, their composition just doesn't come to fruition. So Striking Vipers, they're able to capitalize. They find their fight off the back of it. They end up taking the series and extremely well played.
Really well played by them. 2-0 victory to move on forward into the semifinals. And that's going to do it for this quarterfinals for us. At least we're going to give it back over to our beautiful desk to be able to break down this game and series a little bit more. So Orbital, take us away.
And welcome back. We are here on the desk after we know that Striking Vipers come out 2-0. And I mean, let's be honest. It was entertaining is the best way we can put it. RMC, OP, both of you guys had a lot of words to say. Let's break it down a little bit of what we just saw.
I'm just going to say that Unified needs to get a sponsorship from HBO. Tell them that we've got the next season of Game of Thrones here.
That, as some would say, was a game of League of Legends. So that was it. There were champions 10, and Nexus exploded. There you go.
Is lethality Caitlyn really a champion though, Sean?
Yeah.
Well, oh no. All right, so let's break it down. Let's first start with the champion select, because that is where it felt like it started breaking down a little bit. You both had a couple stronger feelings about the ADC selection, especially in a P5 scenario when you know the Trundle's out, when you know so much of this utility is out. I mean, with the Caitlyn lock-in, do you feel that was really the defining point of the composition?
I felt like there were some I know Converse is like looking at trying to be like their first year as a varsity team. They probably have some comfort picks that they're more comfortable with, obviously, and then probably some stuff that when you're in the collegiate landscape, you try stuff that maybe the enemy team is not necessarily super familiar with. They obviously felt like they needed to get something with like a little bit of lane prio right there. Maybe that was a default for the player. Regardless, I'm not a big fan of the pick overall. I also felt like they didn't have the tools to really play to what the strengths of that champion necessarily do or what it was going into. And then on the other side, for Striking Vipers, I think they had pretty good answers overall. They had a similar identity to the previous game with, ZMT on an assassin and, pretty strong bot lane, obviously, with the Rel following up with a really mobile assassin to try to make some of these plays.
Yeah. Personally, for me, as you can tell, I really didn't like the Caitlyn pickup. I think everything up to that point was defensible. I know the Sejuani felt a little bit early and got countered by that Trundle there, but I really felt strongly that instead of that Caitlyn, if you had gone something like the Aphelios or the Jinx instead, better scaling, a little bit better safety, and obviously that wasn't what they were looking for. Lethality Caitlyn is not about the late game. It's all about the laning phase, the early game. But when you end up kind of just going, I think it was 1 and 3 or 1 and 2 coming out of lane there, it didn't really work, and picking it into a Varus, one of the few champions who can actually match you in terms of range, and even worse, lethality, that just kind of really didn't feel like what Converse would have liked to see coming through on the other side.
It was a little bit rough, and again, that did lead into maybe some situations that they may not have been real comfortable with, and of course, we saw it straight off the bat, a lot of trades, a lot of fights that we were surprised that they took, and one of them that really stood out to us, I think, was about, I want to say, started around 7.5 minutes in. It was a little bit rough to watch, and it was a very, very extended succession of trades. So let's go ahead, we'll take a look at that. It all starts, I believe, from that jungle pathing.
Yeah, so Crocodile, going in really, really aggressively here with the whole backup of the team. It's a good play, right? They have the numbers advantage. The problem is timing. They needed to do it fast and get out. Keep in mind that Panther is here and Panther has Maelstrom. So if you take too long and you lose the numbers advantage, you should lose the fight. And that's how everything looks like it's going here. But they didn't manage to secure the kills quite right away. They should have caught out Blossom, but Blossom by a miracle survives, and this makes all the difference. Because suddenly, Panther's chasing the low health Rel, everybody else is running in. They turn the corner, take a whole bunch of damage, and Anime Girl starts getting resets.
Yeah, and I think you can just kind of see that there's probably just, I'm not sure, but the movement of the champions kind of shows a little bit of desynced communication right there. Bard just goes flying in there, and then Sejuani was like going down, coming back up. You got to be on the same page right there, just kind of sending them to their, that magical journey was not so magical for the side of Converse right there. More like a, a tunnel of death that just led to a really big advantage from what looked to be an initial good play. Obviously, Blossom, staging like the really delayed death to pull the cannon away. But we just saw a lot of desynced comms or whatever it might be. Can't interject too much on that without actually knowing. It just, they weren't necessarily all on the same page right there. And I think sometimes that's what happens when you prioritize some of these comfort picks to where maybe you're not used to playing them. I know that the Bard's been like a ban. It was banned in the first game. So how much have they actually played with that? It's just things to consider going forward.
Yeah, and getting some of those early wins on the side of Striking Vipers, it did lead into what I can only say is a true godlike performance on that bottom side. It was only 13 minutes into this game as well, and we saw that top lane Viego absolutely take off. So let's go ahead and pull it up on the screen here and walk us through a little bit, because it started out in CVP's favor, I believe.
Yeah, so right here, we know that they're trying to make a play on the bot side for Converse right here, but so they're looking to crack open the top lane here. I think Panther has a really, really nice ult here trying to clear the wave out, but the Aurelia has TP as well and isn't looking to answer when they're probably just focused mid. And then from this, it just kind of devolves into, yakety sacks. The TP comes down from ZMT. Star Jerry already has to burn the flash. Aurelia is still just in mid lane, and the TP finally comes in after every resource has been burned. And then you see the Viego coming down now as well, just jumping in, and it just kind of becomes like, okay, can we get a reset? Yes, we can. And then, as you say, Anime Girl from this moment on just goes godlike with these resets as ZMT tries to go in. Melee mid laner can't do anything there. And then Kennen, who just died, topside, TP's in without ultimate and then gets dove in bot lane. So at this point, if you're Converse, you're probably just wishing that your name was Nike instead and that you could just do it. But unfortunately, they could not.
And I also want to highlight the fact that it's very aggressive coming through from Striking Vipers. They sacked multiple members for that dive there, but I think that's the right call. And under that sort of pressure situation, Striking Vipers knows we will happily trade kills because we've got assassins. If Viego gets ahead, if Akali gets ahead, if we trade 1-for-1 for these guys, it's always going to be worth it compared to your Irelia, your Kennen there. And that's why we saw that aggression coming through, like you pointed out. Anime Girl was godlike after that. And realistically speaking, strategically speaking, the game should have been over at that point. When you've got a 7-0 Viego, what lanes into that? Sure, Irelia is supposed to be a counter matchup, but that's when you're even, not when, Viego is way, way ahead and can just 1v1 you, shred you. If you send somebody in to get a gank off, that's just more resets for that Viego.
Yep.
Yeah, and from there, though, you were wondering, what could happen. And actually, we saw some good points, right? We've been talking about Striking Vipers, how well they played, but CVP as well, Converse, had some good moments. And I think one of those major points that really exemplified their ingenuity, or at least their understanding of the game, actually came at about 19 and a half minutes. We saw what I can only call a very cheeky kill from over the wall, utilizing some would call a little exploitation of the code. I'm not sure what we would call it.
I mean, Kennen is a ninja. That's what it says. He's a flippin' ninja, so he's just doing his best subvert ops right there. And I think right there, so I guess Akali just realizes that her bone plating goes off. It's like, yo, Kennen was up here, and it's like, oh wait, there's a board too. And then it's just like ninja on ninja, crime right there. So it was really interesting. It was kind of just a cool play overall. But we needed to see a lot more from Converse and working in tandem, where most of what we saw for the rest of the game was like people either conga lining in or running out one by one without really having any follow-ups. Sejuani ults hitting, but no one can follow up on it, or Bard ults to where everyone has to go into the team. It was, I think Converse had a lot of promise, especially from the early game in game one. And it was a little bit interesting, but as you could see that, Striking Vipers were just the stronger team today.
Yeah. Just extremely strong. And of course, we get to see that strength actually come out in the very final play, right? Converse had tried over and over again to throw so many types of engages in their pocket, yet it just didn't come to fruition. Final play here, RMC, walk us through it.
And I want to point out that coming into this play right now, Converse is actually surprisingly close. Panther has done an amazing job keeping the team in it, and Panther hurts. But the problem is, if Panther doesn't get early kills, the fight's kind of over. And you can see the lack of vision here. They don't actually know what's coming on the flanks, and that, I think, really hurts them a lot. They overstep, they get instantly Magnet Storm, and here's that lack of coordination you're kind of mentioning there, Sean. They're not layering all the damage right. The Maelstrom comes through, doesn't kill anybody, and after that, it's just reset city. Like Rebel was saying on the casting desk, nobody attacked Anime Girl, who's the most fed member of Striking Vipers, and it just reset after reset after reset. They close it out here, and huge props to Striking Vipers. I know that when I spoke to Striking Vipers before, to their owner Brotherhood, he was saying that a lot of people kind of look down on Striking Vipers as a team that isn't really a household name. They're not really up there, but this split, they are really stepping up. And sure, sometimes they're a little bit messy, but you can see the individual skill from the players. The players are good, and when you put them in pressure situations like this, they know how to work together. They know how to layer all their things, and they know what their win condition is in this particular game, keeping Anime Girl alive.
Yeah, and it ended up in a very nice situation. They take a 2-0 in the playoff run. In the quarterfinals, they'll go ahead and move on to fight against what can either be a massive wall to overcome in Maryville, or their other sister team in Striking Vipers, Maestros, which I think is Yeah. Oh, so we do have confirmation, I believe. Is that
Maryville
correct?
won last night already. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
this
okay. So
this
I'm
is a
slow.
revenge
I'm slow.
match. They're taking
I'm
revenge for their sister team.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you go. So, any closing thoughts, at least with that matchup, specifically because we know what's going to come in the semifinals. We now seen a 2-0, and now they're going up against, which is, I want to harbor an opinion here and just say, what is looking like the favorite to take the entire thing?
If it's not Maryville, then it's nobody. It's Maryville all the way. Maryville, yeah. That's all I gotta say. Honestly, they are the stone wall that you were mentioning. There's no Gorbachev to take this wall down. The Vipers will run headfirst into that dam that is shadying the crew.
I just want to point out that Sean might or might not be biased. I don't know if you've seen his Twitter handle. It's OPCLOL fan. You can see it under his name right there.
What do you mean?
Converse 2-1 tonight. I'm just saying he's biased.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
That's
Cut the
it.
VOD.
I would agree with Sean. I do think Maryville is the favorites for a reason. And if you watch last night's game, game 2 was an absolute shellacking. I think Striking Vipers, they have a fight in them. I just don't know if it's going to be sufficient to take on Maryville. And I feel bad because I think they're just on the wrong side of the bracket. If Striking Vipers is on the other side, this is a potential grand finals matchup that we're going to get to see a week early in the semifinals.
Yeah, and of course, like you said, wrong side of the bracket, but it still will hopefully be entertaining. We'll see if we can see what the scoreline is there. But of course, that will be it for us here on the desk for our production tonight. Thank you so much for tuning into the Unified Premier League playoffs matchup in the quarterfinals. So, and again, congratulations to Striking Vipers for the 2-0. From all of us here, we want to thank you. My name is Orbital RMC and OP on the analyst desk here. And of course, our awesome casters, Mad Magical and Rebel Fox, and our production crew. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a fantastic evening.